States, but we consume 40% of the resources. No matter what damage we do to the earth or to other people.
And welcome back to another great night here on Freedom Revolution Network. This is Clarity After Dark. I am your host, Scarlet Anonymous. I have my guest host Dwayne with me. We're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to talk about many different things, including the 4.7 earthquake that occurred tonight in California, as well as coronavirus updates and the Houston explosion, just to say a few things that we'll be covering tonight. So, with that being said, we are now live on Twitch and many other different platforms. So check us out live. We're going to see and check out if the website with freedomrevolutionnetwork.com is actually working. We're going to check that out really quick.
I got it.
Oh, do you? Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Glad to hear it. Oh, yeah, we are showing up. I wonder if earlier I just didn't quite put in the correct stream key or something. I almost probably should have started and restopped the stream, but I had already stopped and restarted it a couple times at that point. So I just felt like, well, let's just roll with it and people could see it. So here we are now. So I'm gonna see if anybody's in the chat on freedomrevolutionnetwork.com. See what everybody's got to say. And welcome everybody to Clarity After Dark. And I talked to Red earlier, but we don't know what happened. Maybe Red fell asleep or something, but we're here. I've got Dwayne. It's good. So,
hello.
Interesting week, huh, Dwayne?
Man, it has been one interesting week, which is all the events happening back to back. You know, you've had, the 4.7 earthquake, the explosion down in Texas, and then on top of this, the coronavirus, and we're only 3 weeks in, 3.5 weeks in the year of 2020, and we're seeing all these major natural disasters happen.
Right.
So it kind of asks me what does the rest of 2020 have in store?
That's a good question. We don't know what's going to be happening in the future. It's something that we should definitely be paying attention to. I don't know quite how we should feel about it yet, but I have felt the most uncomfortable I have in a while right now. Just the level of tension everywhere with the potential for, and I don't want people to freak out about this outbreak. That's one thing that I want people to not be fear-mongering with this, because
right.
It's not something that we should fear.
And exactly, because as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm on the laptop and I am seeing, people in Chicago, are receiving treatments at the hospital, for the coronavirus.
Right.
So we're pretty much on top of the ballgame when it's coming to the coronavirus. Now, even though the CDC did say they would have a vaccine out by April,
They did.
For the coronavirus, personal opinion, don't take it as a live. It is literally what it is. It's a live virus of the coronavirus going in your body.
Yep. That is true.
And it seems like this coronavirus has a span of almost 10 years each time.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Because you had the one back in 2002, move into 2012, and then 8 years later, you have the one in 2020.
Yep.
So who's not to say, that this is a man-made, this is the government screwing with our heads.
Yeah, pretty much.
Going like, we got control of you. This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to do it. So, but with the coronavirus, guys, we don't want you to freak out. And soon as you see these symptoms, go like, oh, I need to go to the hospital. Because of the fact that, Scarlet, how did you say it earlier? It's a super spreader.
Yeah, everybody's turning into super shedders. So what that means is instead of 1 point of contact, there is basically one person is now available to spread this to multiple different people at once. And so that is the concerning part of all of this.
Right, and I agree. It is concerning, with the simple fact, that we are, looking at you can come in contact, and we're seeing it's possible just from what we're seeing, by human contact with one another. So going to the hospital, first thing as soon as you're seeing these signs, you could be potentially spreading this thing.
Right.
We're at right now a minimum amount of deaths, which for a coronavirus being on the low side is a good thing.
Right.
44 deaths have been confirmed, which all of us thought it was going to be higher than that.
We did. We truly did. Honestly.
And so to basically tell you guys what the coronavirus is. Hold on. My computer's not wanting to work with me today.
All right. Well, we'll work with you on that.
So the coronavirus
finally changed the picture, but I can't. I have to flip my Clarity After Dark my new logo around. I can't even use it. I'm really sad because I didn't know that it transposes the image.
Yep.
But yeah, so I got to flip it. But here's my new logo, Clarity After Dark. Snap, snap.
That is beautiful,
isn't it? I thought it was great. So there's preview Clarity After Dark logo.
Right. So this is what it says the coronavirus is.
Okay.
Coronavirus are a large family of viruses whose effects range from the causing common cold to triggering much more serious diseases such as severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS. Coronavirus are a group of viruses that causes diseases in mammals and birds that include diarrhea in cows and pigs and upper respiratory disease in chickens. In humans, that the virus causes respiratory infections, which are often mild, but in rare cases, lethal. So the coronavirus is basically a mock version of the HN51 disease, if you look at it that way, Scarlet. When me and you were talking the other night.
Right.
You know, not knowing much of the H151, I don't really care to know. And freak y'all out even more. But, you know, this was out of shock. You know, this was like, for all of us.
It is. It truly is a shock. I mean, nobody was sitting around a week ago thinking, oh, there's going to be a deadly coronavirus outbreak. Nobody was thinking that.
Right. And, you know, and the fact is that, you know, this originated all overseas in China.
Correct.
You know, brings my suspicions and my wonders, you know, as we were saying earlier before the show started, how do we not know this is a terrorist attack?
Yeah, how do we know that this hasn't been engineered as a bioweapon to let out the Chinese people and use them basically as a biological weapon? I mean, the people who are infected don't have to necessarily know that they're infected. You see.
Right. Because they could have been sprayed with it. It could have been put in their food.
Yep.
You know, so how do we not know that this could be the start of a biochemical terrorist attack that, if it turns out to come to be, which could launch potentially World War III?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's true. It's very concerning.
And it is, you know, because looking at it from a medical standpoint, you know, we have seen cases of the coronavirus, you know, to where, matter of fact, through arrest and fluids, that parts of the coronavirus, you know, were handled.
Right.
Who says that can't happen again?
Well, that's true.
So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So this is why we're telling you guys not to freak out.
Yeah, because if this is some type of targeted, you know, virus that maybe is, you know, we should be looking into who the people are who are perishing from this. Are these people political dissidents? Are they, you know, enemies of the state of China? What's their status with their government? Because let's not forget, China is a communist government that, you know, literally puts its citizens under the bootstraps of tyranny. So we know that Sinobiologics, which has created a coronavirus vaccine, Sinobiologics is based out of Hong Kong, and they recently got in trouble with human rights violations. And a friend of mine told me that she got kicked out of the Reddit, the subreddit for Sinobiologics, because she brought up how they had been caught with human rights violations and how they believed that Tiananmen Square was a win for the Chinese government, showing that they're superior. Now, Tiananmen Square, they literally ran over their citizens with tanks.
Right. See, exactly.
So we need to find out who was actually involved. We need to find out who these people are. Now, I said earlier, now you weren't around for this, but earlier on Ron's program, I talked about how there is a document that I saw on a Agenda Free TV about who's been killed so far and the profile of each person. Okay. So with that being said, I want to decode that document here in the next day or so and talk about this, because I just find it too coincidental that we have all these cases going on. The CDC has come up with a testing kit in the United States. The Chinese had the original assay kit to test for it. And there's a laboratory in Wuhan, China, that basically had this virus on file.
Right. And you know, when I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the chat, you know, of tonight from what it looks like, you know, and some people are saying, you know, like, you know, that this could be linked with the Cascadia event, the Cascades.
Yeah.
You know, because Kate Ballhart said, looks like we have the Cascades go down with the Society of Corona just to finish it off. So you kind of see where it's going with it, you know, is going like knowing, and my question is the U.S. behind this?
Now, funny you should ask that. There is a gentleman who wrote a book in 2002 talking about how he believes that the U.S. created the coronavirus, the SARS version, as a weapon.
See?
So, with that being said, it's something to think about.
And it is, you know, because, you know, look how much our government's already done in the beginning of the new year.
Right.
What's not just a better way to kick it off with biochemicals?
Right.
You know, World War III failed because our president stepped away from it, of course.
Right.
So now, since that didn't work, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with a biochemical attack. Really?
Right.
Like, come on, people. Everyone goes like, oh, our government ain't so corrupt. Look at everything that's been going on the past 4 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's definitely something to think about. I was going to pull up and start a screen share. I was just checking all the chats to see if anybody was talking about it.
I don't even think I'm logged in.
I was.
This is sad if I'm not logged. I'm not even logged in. Why am I not logged in? Dwayne, what are you doing?
Don't know.
I need to get stuff together.
All right. So, because I had talked about a couple different articles that I felt were important. I talked about the Hal Turner radio show information, which I thought was interesting. You know, he's reporting a lot higher numbers than anybody else out there, and I think it's something to look at.
Right. Right, and
because what if they're lying? Has anybody thought of that?
Actually, no, not really.
Yeah. See, everybody takes like what the government tells you at face value. But what if it's not the case? Because let's think about this. If there's only less than 800 people, okay, that have been now over 1,000, okay, let's say 1,300 people affected.
Right.
A population of 1 point, whatever billion people in China. This would be 0.000 point, I think they said 1.3% of the population, or 0.000 point, like one, such an nth degree. Why would you need this strict of a protocol if only a small percentage of your citizens are dying? Think about
Right. See, and I didn't even think. See?
Yeah, I know. I hadn't really thought about it too much either, but now you sit back and think about it, and a few people had brought it up, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Why, if this is such... Now, let me give you the exact numbers, because I know a friend who posted this, and it really made me think about it. And a few people have said it too, and I thought about it for a second after that. Really just think about that for a second. Okay, so I'm going to go back to where it talks about the percentage, okay? And we really need to think about that. Okay, perspective. There are about 1.8 billion people in China. 25 of those people have died from coronavirus.
Right.
That's about 0.0000000138888 of a percent of people, all with underlying health issues. So, and they're going to make a new vaccine. Meanwhile, 500 or more babies die from vaccines, and not a word is said by the media. Hell, 6,000 people supposedly have died this year so far from the flu. So when you think about it in that perspective, why are they tripping? Unless maybe the numbers that the Hal Turner radio show are putting out could be correct, which are 2.8 million infected, 112,000 dead. Now, I could see if it was 2.8 million people infected and 112,000 dead, why they would be panicking, why they would quarantine 23 million people.
See?
Because otherwise, people need to wake up that this is a serious breach of power in China too, because why are you... If it's only 25 people who have died and only 1,000 who are suspected to have caught the disease, but there's 1.8 billion people, why would you need to quarantine them? Unless you're trying to take complete control of the people. Why else would you quarantine them? Truly, honestly. Unless they know either this disease spreads that damn fast and explodes, or if there's more people than what they want to admit.
See?
I don't know.
That's what.
It's a good question, isn't it?
That's what. See, you make a good point.
You know? So, and this could be why the media is panicking and they want us to panic, but they're only telling us very tiny numbers. So it might be, because a lot of people are saying, oh, don't panic, it's not that many people. Da, da, da. But what if they're lying? And it is a lot more people. Why we're seeing cases all of a sudden in Colorado and Minnesota and Tennessee and Texas and this and that and everywhere.
Right.
Because how it has a 14-day incubation period, but now it's popping up all over the countries, everywhere. Anywhere somebody's traveling from China, it's popping up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, see? So I'm going to almost say that this could be potentially true. Now, when I was on Ron's program, I was, highly critical of it. And I told people to really think about it. But now going over the numbers once again, what if it is true? What if it is true? Okay, now there's pictures of people supposedly, passed out in streets and hospitals and other places. And I told people, take those with a grain of salt, because we can't verify where those pictures came from. We can't tell if those pictures were taken yesterday, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. We don't know. Okay.
Right.
Now, the one thing that they're saying that is different from SARS is that it's causing rapid kidney failure and multiple organ failure, which would make sense with why people are dying so quickly.
Or just dropping dead.
Yeah, and dropping dead. And it makes sense why they would drop dead so quickly, okay? Especially if everybody is a super spreader, which, like I said, that means that one person now can spread the disease to 14 people instead of one. like normal transmission of disease usually only makes like one copy when it's like a second generation disease or when it's a first generation disease. But now this is a second generation disease that is now one person can pass it to multiple people. And I did a little bit of math earlier, which I will do again with you guys. So let's say one person, infects 14, right? And those 14 infect 14. 14 times 14 is 196 people. Now let's take those 196 people by 14. Okay. Now you have 2,744. Now we times that by 14. Okay.
Okay.
Now we have 38,416. Times that by 14. 537,824. Times that by 14, 7,529,536. You see how fast this shit spreads?
It's spreading like wildfire.
And it is. And if every person can infect, 14 people, and yet the disease has only been spreading rapidly and virulently for the last week. Now, Lord, like I said earlier, for those who weren't listening, but I'm going to repeat, just in case you were listening, I'd hate to repeat myself and you're like, oh, you said that earlier. Don't act like that's new, Scarlet. Is that Laura Wells has been following this. Now, she writes a lot of her stuff in her notepad on her iPhone to try to, show that she's making predictions and watching trends. Now, Monday to Friday of this week with the coronavirus. Now, on Monday, she reported 3 deaths. 300 confirmed infected. On Tuesday, 9 deaths, okay? 440 confirmed infected. On Wednesday, they didn't update, okay? On Thursday, I reported 25 deaths, 830 infected, okay? On Friday, 41 deaths, 1,000 plus infected. So in the matter of 5 days, it went from 3 confirmed deaths to 41 confirmed deaths, of which we know those numbers are much, much higher. And it's also spreading rapidly in the last week to many places in the world. Now, I think that she is right. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when we dealt in Hurricane Harvey, we knew that a lot more bodies were dead than what the media will ever admit died in Hurricane Harvey. Period.
Right.
Period.
And and I can even attest for that.
I know you can because you were there. That's why I bring this up, because usually when I tell these stories, I don't have one of you guys around. I don't have Watchdog to back me up, but I have you now. And we know for a fact tons of people died. I knew for a fact when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, hella people died, and they were dead everywhere.
I was about to say, when Harvey hit, we were pulling at least 100 plus bodies out of the water every hour.
At least. People were literally going down these rivers of neighborhoods in boats, picking folks out. Left and right, because they didn't want to leave them there. Just to rot. Right.
It was more of a
respect thing than anything.
It was more of respect and more of identifying the body so families could bury them.
Well, that's just it. But did they ever notify these families, or did they ever try to make identification? I doubt it.
I can honestly testify for that. No, because half the bodies were put in an ice cream parlor.
Yeah. I could see it, or just thrown in a dam or river, or, they got gators and stuff. I could see it.
Because when Harvey hit, there was, about 50 of us?
Yeah.
And half of us wasn't even from our team.
True.
Look at it when Irma hit the Keys.
Yeah.
There was not a single death.
No.
Reported.
No, that's true. And I do believe that report. Now they're going to say, Scarlet, why do you believe that? But you don't, because we had a lot more connections in the Keys to get a hold of people. People knew this was coming. You already had Harvey, in during that time. I think Harvey was first, then Irma, then
Harvey.
yeah,
Harvey.
yeah, obviously it was because HI. So yes, it was Harvey,
Yep.
Irma, and Maria. Because Katya was in between there, and I can't remember what the other one was, which I'm surprised because that hurricane season was nuts. But I don't think that
We had Irma, Maria, and Michael.
yeah, Michael.
Within a month span.
Didn't we have Florence in that round too? No, Florence was the next year, wasn't it?
Florence was last year.
Yeah, that was the next year after because it's been 2 years since Harvey.
You
That's
know,
how I honestly like. You guys, I know you've heard me like refer to this 1,000 times on the program, but honestly, Hurricane Harvey changed my life. And the way I look at life is like pre-Harvey, post-Harvey. Like that opened my eyes to the government corruption and the lack of ability to come together in a natural disaster to protect us from our own government. And so, that's why I refer to a lot of things around here is like pre-Harvey and like post-Harvey, because that experience opened my eyes and changed my life. We all worked so hard. So many groups did. We're not going to take the only credit as USCF because there's probably, 50 other groups doing the same thing.
We had 50 Star SAR on the ground. We had
VV Friends. We had VV Friends. You
Cajun
had
Navy.
Cajun Navy. You had and many factions of Cajun Navy. You had many private groups. I mean, there's so many people who were down there.
My own search and rescue team was down there.
Mm-hmm. Tons of people went down there. I mean, honestly, it showed me and restored my faith in being an American. But the sad part about it was so many people, if you weren't in the groups that were paying attention or it was happening to you, nobody knew about it.
And the only reason Scarlet knows is because I had to report back to her.
Right. Well, that's just it. I mean, we all were around then. I mean, I didn't have as senior of capacity, but we didn't have leaders back then either like that. Not really.
Not as we do today.
No, not like directors.
And that's even as a thing, and you know what, Scarlet, you're right. Everything, that me and you look at, is pre-Harvey and post-Harvey.
Yeah. Harvey changed my life, dude. And I'll tell anybody that all day long. It opened my eye. It broke me as a human being. I think after Harvey, we all were exhausted. We all were mentally changed. We had been through situations nobody should have to go through.
5 days away.
We had to talk to people whose loved ones were dead, who we found. We had the government coming after us. I mean, it was out of control. It was like the Wild West. It's like shit you hear about in a goddamn movie.
And this is why we look at it, guys, as pre and post, because it's the same thing happening now.
Yes, the lies, the blatant disregard for life, the lies, saying they have things set up and staged that they don't, attacking people who were just everyday average citizens. Okay. I could go on and on and on about it, but what it really comes down to is that they're lying. And I think the Chinese government could be lying. I mean, that's what this whole rant was about, was that we watched so much corruption during Harvey. We watched so much corruption go down during Maria on the island of Puerto Rico.
Saying that supplies were going in, then we see videos of warehouses.
They remember that they wouldn't let our tankers in because because Irma didn't end up being that big of a deal on the Keys. And because they wouldn't let us basically help in Florida, but we could load stuff out of Florida, we were going to send it down to Puerto Rico. They refused. We had a whole, USCF themselves had a whole tanker with a shipping container cargo tanker that was going to bring a whole shipping container, thousands of shipping containers on this boat down to Puerto Rico, and they refused it.
Full of water, clothes, diapers, wipes.
All the necessities you could ever think of or need. And we were ready to just send it down. We didn't have a need for it in the States. The threat had really passed for people of the States. And we had more than enough because, Harvey had just happened. And so we had more than enough supplies to kind of move around the whole country at that point.
Right, because Puerto Rico is considered a U.S. territory.
So we figured that we could just send the stuff down there because, hey, they're a part of the U.S. We don't have to go through, international hoops to get stuff down there. And no, we could not. Because number one of the trucker strike that was happening, they wouldn't allow anybody who wasn't a Puerto Rican union truck member to unload even or carry these goods around. And they refused to carry goods around after the hurricane because they were on strike and were not getting paid. That's a joke. We are all here at USCF volunteers. We don't get paid a dime. We get no perks. We got to pay our own gas money. We got to pay our own money to get stuff. Hell, we help fund our guys who are on the ground if they need gas. But most of them are spending money out of their own pockets, buying people who are on the ground even food, buying victims food or buying victims items. Like we use literally our own money to do this.
Look at how many times during
Imelda?
During the flood in I think it was the flood in Texas.
Yeah, Imelda. You always forget that one. That's why I said that, because Imelda.
Yeah, Imelda. Look at how much money I forked over.
I gave up $30 during Imelda.
I forked
that
over.
Scamming kid who scammed us out of that, scammed me out of $30.
They scammed $200 out of a disability check right out the window.
Yep. Yeah, they did. Isn't that sick? And that's where mine came from too. So it's like, that's just sick. Honestly, these people, we're trying to do this out of goodness of our hearts because, and this is why I do a program. This is why I went on Ron's show tonight with Emergency Management Associates. This is why I am considered an emergency management associate, because this is important to me. I've dealt with emergency managers. I've dealt with, police officers and sheriffs and this or that. Now, a biological threat is a little bit different than a natural disaster. But I think the natural tendency to lie and cover up and diminish what's going on is common, no matter what. Because like I told you in the past, to actually evacuate all these people would be impossible, right? And they did try to let some people evacuate before the lockdown occurred in the 8 cities that have already been locked down, right?
Right.
But now everybody's stuck in the same place. Now, one thing I was watching was, it's called, what's it called? Timeline on YouTube. They have very interesting history documentaries. I don't know how truthful they are. Some of the stuff I've learned, I haven't learned anywhere else. So I feel like to some degree it's decent. Now, is it, 100% truth? Is it, more mainstream to try to make you believe certain ideas? Possibly. But I found very good documentaries on there. And they had one about the Black Plague, okay? And so I was watching that 2 nights ago. And one interesting thing that they were talking about is how when the Black Plague occurred, they started quarantine, okay? And they would lock you in if they found anybody in your household to have this disease. They would lock you up in your home for 40 days. Okay.
Right.
They would board your house. I mean, literally board your house shut. Okay. And put a lock, and the locksmith would come out and attach a lock to the boarded up door, and they literally padlock your home shut. Okay. So you can't get out. When they would leave the people for 40 days, when they would come back, 9 times out of 10, the whole family would be dead.
Right.
Because when you lock people in with each other, you're more likely to catch the disease. Okay? And so this is what concerns me about locking down Chinese cities, is you're going to create underground traffic, okay? Because what about all the people on drugs? What about all the alcoholics? What about, people who need medications, or all these people technically, and what, everybody no longer has a job? Okay,
Right.
like, let's really think about this. If a town is quarantined and shut down, who's going to work? Who's at the grocery store selling food? Who's at the neighborhood, dry cleaners or fast food joint, or, who is manning these stores if the town is quarantined and you're not allowed to travel?
Right.
Okay, which means all of these towns in China are losing billions of yuan a day, guaranteed. One thing I'm going to look at is Chinese stocks real quick. Because that's something I want to see, because what's interesting is that vaccine manufacturer stock are going up.
Right. Of course they're going to.
Well, of course. And I just find it fascinating that their stocks are going up. But let's think about this. There's going to be no commerce in the places that are locked down. There's no way. Because they're not going to let them go anywhere. Where are they going to go? So the Shanghai Stock Exchange Composite Index, okay, the Shanghai. Let's go look at this. Okay, now, in the last day, okay, let's see. It peaked the 13th of January. January 20th, it was still at 3062. Which it's kind of been at that, for the last month, like the whole month. Okay.
Right.
We had a nice jump in December with stocks. But now we're plummeting down to a close of 29.76, it looks like.
Right.
It's down 84.23 points. That's interesting. We'll see. UK stocks rebound, but end week down. Gold rebounds after a weak U.S. manufacturing report. U.S. crude falls 2%. I just want to see what the hell is going on. Let's go see. Okay, so.
Well, right here.
Hold on, because they're going to show us the top stocks. So I'm just seeing what top stocks are down. Yangtze Power, China Life Insurance is down. I'm sure they are, because China Life Insurance Company is freaking out. Because a lot of people probably do have life insurance, so they're going to have to pay out on this. I don't know if they'll do it for coronavirus. They'll probably try to say, oh, it was an act of God or something.
Yeah, right. Try to blame God.
Huatai Securities is down. Shanghai Airport is down. Guangzhou Automobiles down. Shanghai Electric, Jianlongji. I don't know what company that is. That's interesting. Fuyao Glass, Guangzhou Bai. Asino Company Limited. I just wanted to see if any of them were pharmaceuticals, SH Pharmaceutical.
Right.
Sino Pharmaceuticals.
Right, and I'm on the Market Insider, right?
Right.
It says in China, the Shanghai Composite sunk 2.8%, and the SZSE component dropped 3.5%. Similarly, Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell 1.5%.
Right.
This is due to the fact of the coronavirus.
Yep. Well, they said on January 23rd, the last trading day before, because see, it's the week-long Lunar New Year holiday. We won't even find out how bad the fucking economy is. Oh, shit. Okay, so we just uncovered something big, you guys. So I'm going to break down what we just uncovered. So, yes, 2 days ago, right, would have been Thursday, would have been the last day of trading, okay?
Right.
For a whole week, because it's the Chinese New Year right now.
Right.
Okay, so I believe today actually in particular is Chinese New Year. Like, let me look at my calendar because I have a nice little planner here that tells me what the holidays are. Yes, Chinese New Year is today. So they're on break now for trading, like if it was like Christmas weekend. So we're not going to get any information. We'd have to probably go to the futures and go see what the Shanghai futures market looks like. Okay, because we're on tradingeconomics.com looking at the China Shanghai Composite Stock Market Index. Holy shit. So this, we're not going to even see until next Thursday how bad the Chinese economy has fallen. Which means everybody else won't see an effect of this for till next week. So everybody's going to be trading like normal. And I wonder, and the Dow is down, okay, after they just rallied last week with its super high, one of our highest points ever. This is going to be shit. Oh, I am panicking about this because this is going to be really bad. Because here's the little blurb that they left before they left for the weekend. The Shanghai Composite tumbled 84 points or 2.8% to 2977, the biggest daily fall since May 6, 2019, as investors remain anxious about the spread of the economic impact of coronavirus. On Thursday, the death toll from the coronavirus rose to 17 with nearly 600 cases confirmed. Now we're up to 1,300 on Friday. So let's just think about that. Death toll rises from 17 to 45. It's a threefold increase. 600 cases confirmed, okay? Now we're up to 1,300. That's double the cases that confirmed and almost triple the death toll.
Well, here's one thing we didn't know. And this was reported today at January 20, today.
Okay.
At 1:06 in the morning.
Okay.
Chinese people are now turning on the government as the coronavirus outbreak spirals into the Lunar New Year.
Yep. This is their biggest holiday. And I think let's go talk about that for a second. Because, you know, I think that it's one thing that we're not focusing on right now, but this is a really big deal to the Chinese people. Chinese New Year is one of their largest celebrations, okay? And this is a big deal. A lot of people, okay, so MSN just came out with why the Lunar New Year prompts the world's largest annual migration. So celebrated around the world, it prompts the planet's largest annual migration of people. So isn't that cute that it coincides with that? Though it's known to some in the West as Chinese New Year, it isn't just celebrated in China. Lunar New Year, which falls this year on Saturday, January 25th, is a time for family reunions, plenty of food, and loud celebrations. Modern China actually uses a Gregorian calendar like the rest of the world. Its holidays, however, are governed by its traditional lunisolar calendar, which may have been used in use from as early as the 21st century BC, when the newly founded Republic of China officially adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1912. Its leaders rebranded the observation of Lunar New Year as a spring festival, as it is known in China today. As its name suggests, the Lunar New Year depends on the phase of the moon and varies from year to year. Today's Spring Festival is celebrated in China and Hong Kong. Lunar New Year is also celebrated in South Korea, Tibet, Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and places with large Chinese populations. Though the festival varies by country, it's dominated by themes of reunion and hope. For Chinese people, Spring Festival lasts for 40 days and has multiple sub-festivals and rituals. New Year itself is a 7-day-long state holiday. And on the eve of the New Year, Chinese families traditionally celebrate with a massive reunion dinner. So last night, they would have been going to their families' houses for this dinner. And places are locked down. Did they go anyway because this is the most important meal of the year? They say, considered the year's most important meal, it's traditionally held in the house of the most senior family member. The holiday may be getting more modern, but millennia-old traditions are still held dear in China and other countries. In China, people customarily light firecrackers, which are thought to chase away the fearful monster neon. However, the tradition has been on decline, and air pollution restrictions that have hit the fireworks industry hard. The color red is used in clothing and decorations to ensure prosperity, and people exchange hongbao, red envelopes filled with lucky cash. In Korea, people make rice cake soup and honor their ancestors during Seolao. And during Tet, the Vietnamese Lunar New Year, flowers play an important role in the celebrations. Lunar New Year has spawned its own form of travel. During Chunyun, or spring migration, hundreds of millions of people travel to their hometowns in China for family reunions and New Year celebrations. This year, writes China Daily's Kang Jia, around 3 billion travelers will be on the road during the 40-day period. That's half the world, y'all. That's half the damn world.
That was literally getting ready to say that. That is literally half of Earth's population.
Right. Okay. So, whoop. Known as the world's largest human migration, Shenyang regularly clogs already busy roads, trains, and airports. For many, though, it's worth the hassle to celebrate with close family and friends. Y'all, this is why it's an issue. Because look here, 3 billion people travel for this. Why did we never know that?
Because I guess we don't pay close attention to Chinese New Year like we should.
Apparently not. Like, I've heard of Chinese New Year. We always did like little crafts in school for Chinese New Year.
I was about to say we always made a dragon every year.
Yeah, or my son made like a cherry blossom tree a couple years ago. That was really neat. And my daughter broke it like a little hellion. But
you know, or like we made in school a bonsai tree.
Yeah, they made like a really cool like cherry blossom looking tree for it. You know, even though cherry blossoms are traditionally Japanese, but I think they're in China too.
You know, and on, you know, so
continue for a second. Continue for a second. I gotta just step out for 1 second.
Nope. And so we can see now why the Chinese community is upset and going back for the government is because this is one of the most populated holidays that were made in China. And now China has 8 different cities locked down. They put all festivities on hold and everything due to the simple fact that the Chinese have decided to go ahead and let off the coronavirus as an experiment. So we can see now why 40 plus billion people, 3 billion people would be mad. You know, because trust me, I would. You know, so with the coronavirus being on standby, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute, but you know, we're going to look back with it being on not this only taking place on lunar New Year's for them.
I'm back.
But the fact is, even with the shift of energy from an Aquarius full moon, you know, Scarlet, which I didn't know was popping up in 2 days either.
Yeah.
You know, so of course emotion's going to be running high.
Right.
It's going to be running hot. You know, the Chinese government just shut down one of the world's most popular celebrations to set off a fucking biohazard.
Right.
Like, how more stupid can the Chinese government be?
That's true.
You know, and I'm also sitting here and I'm looking at all of this stuff. You know, there's earthquakes off the bat. I guess there was another one today. Guess there was another one yesterday I didn't even know about. You know, with all the earthquakes going on, you got all these volcanoes popping up. You got this crap with the coronavirus happening now. You know, my question is the government, is every freaking government trying to make this the end of the world.
Well, that's just it. But with 3 billion people moving, you know, like I said, we've got 10 cities that are under lockdown. Let's see if we can get some updates on Twitter. I had looked at Twitter earlier and did a screen capture and screen share with everybody, which we can do again. Let's see what we've got. We're going to do another search on it.
I'm logging into Twitter now.
No, what I can do is I'll actually help you with that. I'll just screen share and then you can, and everybody can see it. Here we go.
I gotta go look at these. Because my phone keeps locking up on me. I do not know why.
Right. So now you can see. Can you see?
Ooh, hi, Scarlet.
Okay. So now we're going to see what we've got. See what the latest tweets are about this. No, coronavirus. Why are people putting coronavirus? How did that happen? No wonder I wasn't getting good research earlier. Because that was like the trending one that I just clicked earlier. Okay. So let's see what we've got. No vaccines or antiviral drugs that are approved for prevention or treatment. We're hoping it's not going to be a global health emergency. Coronaviruses are a group of viruses and disease in mammals and birds that include diarrhea in cows and pigs and upper respiratory disease in chickens. Okay. 3 cases of coronavirus in France. And I had talked about that earlier where the 2 cases transferred to the person who didn't even leave France, which I found was interesting. Let's see. Here's one. Quarantine. Talking about something in French. Here are, don't wait this coronavirus be here in the Philippines. Ban those who come from China and keep eyes wide open that came from the area and the confirmed cases. So 26 deaths, 845 confirmed cases, but now we're over 1,300. So that guy has some old info. What's this video? Okay, we didn't see anything cool. Not having declared a global health emergency yet is an act of gross negligence. Now, I don't know about that. We talked about that because if what they're saying is true, then that's actually not that many people, right?
Right. Well, but also, like we said, is that the actual
number of people? Exactly.
Is that the actual number of the peeps?
Right. Oh, it's been updated now. Oh, where's that? Hold on. I hate when my computer does this because it just goes too quick. And then there's the updated map, though. Here we go. Because earlier when I just looked at it, it wasn't updated when I was just on for Emergency Management Associates. So here, watch this. So here's the ArcGIS map. This is the Wuhan coronavirus. Oh, it was updated as of 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because earlier it hadn't been updated since 4 o'clock. Total confirmed 1,354 cases, 1,320 in mainland China, 5 in Hong Kong, 5 in Thailand, 3 in France, 3 in Malaysia, 3 in Singapore, 3 in Taiwan, 2 in Japan, 2 in Macau, South Korea, US 2, Vietnam 2, Australia 1, and Nepal 1. And look at this map right here. It goes from like almost 0, bam, to just 4 days ago, and then look, just steadily up. Now it's even jumping faster.
Right.
So Hubei province, China, which is in the mainland, which is this area right here, it has 729 confirmed cases, 32 recovered, 39 deaths, and 729 confirmed suspected cases. So that's interesting. Confirmed and suspected.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, 32 at least have recovered, with 729 other, 600 and so others. Well, what are they? Are those suspected cases? So these are all confirmed, but no suspected cases. Why don't we have suspected cases? You'd think that number would be super high if you have 700 confirmed. Just saying. So 38 recovered, 41 total deaths. So almost as many have died as have recovered at this point. So
right.
100 confirmed, and they don't give us a number of unconfirmed but suspected cases. So that's something that we need to follow too. Down by Hong Kong, Guangdong, in mainland China. 78 confirmed and 2 recovered, but no suspected cases. See, so this is what's creeping me out. There's none suspected, and people would be running to the hospitals in droves in this area where they should have suspected cases.
Like this coronavirus,
So just we should have updated numbers, but we don't. We don't have any suspected cases listed. And earlier, we at least had look, and in some areas, they're showing us suspected cases. But how come in the areas that have really large confirmed cases, none suspected? That's BS.
That's bullshit. There should be at least...
There should be thousands. There should be thousands. If there is that many confirmed, there should be thousands of suspected cases.
Because I'm sitting here, like, I don't have my audio on, but I'm looking at your map, right?
Right.
And I mean, I can't see the numbers very well because they're blurred.
Are they? Hmm.
It's your computer. It's being gay.
You're being gay.
But just looking at all the red dots where the actual cases are at.
Yeah, Sichuan, China, 28 confirmed, 4 suspected. Okay, now that makes more sense.
Right.
But to have no suspected cases in some of these areas, I call sketchy business.
You know what? I was getting ready to call the same thing with you.
Sketchy.
Because, how does Malaysia only have 2 cases?
Right, or 3 cases. Now, Malaysia's way down here, so that's why Malaysia only has a couple cases, because Malaysia's down here, and Singapore. But I'm surprised we haven't seen nothing out of the Philippines yet. Vietnam has cases up by Hanoi.
What about, I'm surprised Puerto Rico doesn't have any.
Well, I mean, that's over across the...
But still, if it's in the U.S.
Well, no, I mean, I'll show you the U.S. cases. There's the France cases, and then here's the U.S. We only have cases in Oregon or Washington and Chicago confirmed in the United States. Now, we do have suspected cases all across the U.S. So that's Illinois, last update, 1/25/2020 at 12 a.m. 1 confirmed, 1 suspected. So that's that. But we're going to see this number increase. I guarantee you on that.
You know what? And we're going to see it jump. And we're going to see it jump like there's no...
Tomorrow.
Like there's no tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Because when this thing jumps, everybody's going to wait a minute. How did this thing get so widespread?
Well, that's just it. People should be questioning this highly. That's just me. I mean, I don't know. I just see something completely wrong with this. According to the Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka, 6,000 Chinese are working in Sri Lanka. Lots of them have visited China for the Chinese New Year. So I wonder if it's the 6 weeks before the Chinese New Year or now now includes the 40 days of celebration, or is this the end of the 40 days? Like, has the Spring Festival been going on this whole time and everybody's been traveling during that time? Or...
See, you make a good point.
Yeah, because I don't know that answer because I don't celebrate the Chinese New Year. But let's say that this has been going on for, I don't know how many days they would do, but let's say this has been going on for 30 days and this is the last 7 of the 40, Is that what's happening? So everybody's already traveled to China and been back for it because today and this week would be the last week of celebration.
Right.
So has everybody been traveling since last month to China for the Chinese New Year, is my question. Okay. So now they're asking for the wildlife market to stop wildlife trade in China. I mean, this is interesting. They say that if the article is true, then monitoring symptoms may not work as well because it could be too late. Therefore, a simple PCR lab test for all incoming patients is mandatory to detect asymptomatic individuals.
See?
So so this guy's a bioengineer developing mRNA therapeutic platforms for cancer, infectious disease, and neuroscience.
That's sketchy as fuck.
Ain't it though? Let's go check out what this fool is saying. So he says, seeing that an infection is asymptomatic for a few days but still infectious, how does that play a role if it's true? Genuinely asking. With this high reproduction rate, many people will infect many others without showing symptoms. If this is true, then it means that Australia Border Control needs to take dramatic actions to prevent entrance from infected areas. Okay, let's see what he keeps saying. This current patient showed symptoms only a few days after arriving to Melbourne on the 19th. It seems that he may be infected for at least 5 days before he showed symptoms. Now, they said he keeps warning that the incubation period of this virus is unusually long. Given its R0 infectivity is high, it's unusually problematic. Okay, now, he shows a thread from this doctor, Dr. Eric Feigelding. And it
Feigelding?
Yeah, Feigelding. Okay, that's this guy. He's a public health scientist, health economist, science advocacy, ex-Harvard faculty, and New York Times featured pharma whistleblower. Okay, so let's go see it. It says the Lancet now reports that the coronavirus is contagious when no symptoms are specifically present. Crucial to isolate patients and quarantine contacts as early as possible. Now, remember where we heard contacts, the word contacts?
Right.
You remember where we heard that? Or would you like me to refresh your memory, Dwayne?
Yeah, my mind's drawing
a blank on that one. AB 99.
Yeah, we did.
Crucial to isolate patients, quarantine contacts as early as possible. We heard people being talked about as contacts in AB 99. Now, earlier tonight we went through AB 99. We might want to go through it again because why I'm concerned about this is that AB 99 could be enacted all over the United States and then we're in a buttload of herd. So I'm going to read this article first about doctors warn China coronavirus carriers may show no symptoms of illness. Now I'm going to screen share this actually to let the fine people see it. So we're going to share the screen. All right. It's pretty slick. I like the screen sharing.
I like that too. I'd never.
Okay. So I don't know if everybody has screen sharing. We pay for a larger account. So that might be on the paid version. So doctors warn China coronavirus carriers may show no symptoms of illness. It also, I can even allow like remote control and you could like take it over even. CAT scan revealed signs of pneumonia on 10-year-old Shenzhen boy's lungs, even though he had no outward signs of infection. Strict quarantine and contact tracing regimes crucial. Oh, snap. Nope. 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 We're going to read AB 99 after this because I'm going to tell you right now.
Wait, go back to what that said again.
Strict quarantine and contact tracing regimes crucial to containing outbreak. Because now we're going to read AB 99 after this article. And this is why it's going to be super important. This is the most important thing I'm going to say about this coronavirus. Screw if you're going to die over it. This is the most important thing. Okay, now, let me get ready for this. Because, this is the trip. I'm kind of, I don't want to sound the alarm bells, but at this point, I feel like, I just feel like,
right,
we might want to put the air raid siren on. Okay. So we're gonna.
No, I agree with you at this point.
Okay, because I'm gonna explain what I'm scared about, and then I'm gonna let you find people, the listeners of Clarity After Dark, here on FreedomRevolutionNetwork.com, of which you can go to FreedomRevolutionNetwork.com, click on Clarity After Dark, and there is a donate tab, of which if you donate of $50 or more, you can get a free Clarity After Dark, EMA, or FRN t-shirt.
Also, guys, if you guys have anything to say, please drop it down in the chat.
Yes.
We would love to hear what you have to say on this.
We absolutely would. So, with that being said, we're going to continue on with this article. All right, so here's the team of medical researchers. Okay. Now, new research on Wuhan coronavirus has found that the virus may be present in the lungs of individuals with no obvious symptoms, making strict quarantine and contact tracing regimes crucial to preventing the number of cases from reaching the scale of the 2003 SARS outbreak. Without close surveillance, these patients, described as researchers of cryptic cases of walking pneumonia, could prove to be yet another factor. Oh, come on. Go back. Okay. It's not working with me, y'all. And the dangerous trajectory of the Wuhan virus, with the number of infections in countries affected rising rapidly. The findings were reported in Friday's edition of the Lancet Medical Journal by a team of doctors, which included top Hong Kong infectious disease expert Professor Wen Kwok-young, and was based on their study of a family of 7 admitted to the University of Hong Kong Shenzhen Hospital between January 10th and 15th. Why haven't we heard about them? It's the 25th. That was 10 days ago.
See, because I'm sitting here reading it as you're screen sharing it on my computer.
Right.
And the one thing that's catching my eye is right there. It's even going without close surveillance. These patients, described as researchers as cryptic cases of walking pneumonia, could prove to yet be another factor in the dangerous trajectory of the Wuhan virus. Wait the hell a minute. What the fuck do you mean?
Without close surveillance. Yeah, see? That, you're right. Okay, so 6 members were later diagnosed with the coronavirus known as 29nCoV, which is the novel coronavirus, which is causing an increasing alarm around the world with no clues on how it spreads. Of the 6 family members infected with the virus, a 10-year-old boy initially showed no outward symptoms, but a CAT scan of his lungs. Why won't my little button work? Okay. CAT scan of his lungs hold on.
The CAT scan of his lungs revealed irregularities called ground glass pneumonic changes.
All right, hold on. Jesus. Okay, I need this to stop. Yeah, called ground glass pneumonic changes. Now, what the hell is that? We got to look that up. We're going to look that up in a second.
I got exactly explain. I'll pull that up.
Yeah, pull it up. while we're doing that, because we need to know what that means. And so
it's glass
that's
pneumonic.
not something I've heard before. Ground glass mnemonic changes.
I've heard of that actually. Ground. I don't remember what it stands for. Ground.
Right. Okay. And as shown as a study, it's crucial to isolate patients and trace quarantine contacts as early as possible because asymptomatic infection appears possible. 6 members of the family traveled to Wuhan from Shenzhen between December 29th and January 4th. Now, is this patient 0? Oh, dub patient 5 in the study. Okay. Yeah. So this is close to patient 0. This is interesting because this is who we want to know about. In any infectious disease outbreak, patient 0 is important because they're the one where they believe that the outbreak started from, right?
Right.
So was one of 2 children in the group. The other child was a 7-year-old girl who did not present symptoms, and unlike the boy, was reported by her mother to wear a surgical mask for most of the time during the period in Wuhan. The report,
Red flag.
big ass red flag. Because if a mask ain't even saving you, because people in China wear masks a lot more than others. So I find that interesting because that's actually commonplace in their culture. The report said the CAT scan of the boy's lungs was done on the insistence of the nervous parents despite his lack of outward symptoms. The report also noted that 2 other family members were later diagnosed with the Wuhan coronavirus, were afebrile or not feverish when they first presented at the hospital. And remember that one of the diagnostic criteria for this is that you have a fever. So they're only stopping people at the airports who have a fever. So if now you cannot rely on the fever as a metric, what are you looking for now?
Right.
Now it sounds like they're going to have to basically, screen everybody. Because how else would you know?
Right. So here
and they've known this since the 29th of December.
See, then why the fuck haven't we... See, this
it's all coming out now. See, that's the problem. They cannot hide what is done in plain sight. You dig? So now that it's getting to this point, they're telling on themselves in a way. They don't realize they're telling on themselves, but they're telling on themselves. Okay? So it said with asymptomatic patients with SARS being, report compared this confirmed instance of an asymptomatic infection with the 2003 outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome SARS. While asymptomatic patients with SARS have been uncommon, a retrospective study by the authors of the minor outbreak of the illness in Guangzhou in 2004 followed the reopening of a wildlife market in a southern Chinese city showed there had been instances of symptomatic spreading. These cryptic cases of walking pneumonia might serve as a possible source to propagate the outbreak. Further studies on this epidemiological significance of these asymptomatic cases are warranted. Researchers also touched on the connection between coronavirus and wild animals. The link between the virus and wild animals sold at the seafood market in Wuhan was confirmed on Wednesday by Gao Fo, director of... confirmed. Hold on. Was confirmed. This is something we haven't heard anywhere else. Because I haven't heard that it was confirmed.
See, now wait a minute, because that's...
Look at this. By Gao Fu, the general director of China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention. It says it's by, and this is by the South China Morning Post. So
now wait a minute, because that right there raises a fucking red flag to me. Yep. Okay. So and now mind you, I, like I said, I'm following you while you're reading.
Right.
The researchers also touched on this bitch is underlined. I love how
it's probably linked to another article that we could probably click on. Yeah.
On the connection between the coronavirus and animals.
The wild animals sold at a seafood market in Wuhan. But remember that the Wuhan in the biological center is there. So they say novel dishes are a part of identity for some people in China. But diners just need to say no to eating such food. And so this is where they talk about, unwashed buckets, nylon industrial gloves, frog being slaughtered for client, fish and frog remains, live frogs for sale, you know. So they say, and this was on Wednesday. It had killed 17 people and infected 541. So between Wednesday, they did report on Wednesday. Just Laura didn't have those numbers. They lived or worked near Huanan Wholesale Seafood Market. The market was shut down in late December at the start of the outbreak and now is under surveillance. One stall that caught market people's attention online. The most popular review and rating app in China on Dazhangdangping, around 100 varieties of live animals and poultry were available, from fox to wolf cubs to mass palm civets. Civets are believed that they're an intermediate host for carrying a virus from bats that jumped to humans in a wet market in Guangdong province near Hong Kong that led to the outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, in 2002 and 2003. SARS killed 774 people worldwide and infected 8,098 in total. So far, 1,323 cases, 41 deaths. Residents confirmed that crab, shrimp, and striped bass were the main items sold, but in other corners, exotic animals were also on offer. There were turtles, snakes, rats, hedgehogs, and pheasants. Some stalls have more kinds of live animals and some have less, but they have sold these for a long time. The notice from the Wuhan Administration for Industry and Commerce in September showed that live animals were on sale in the market. In the notice, the government said government officials inspected 8 stalls that sold live animals, including tiger frogs, snakes, hedgehogs. Unapproved wildlife business is strictly prohibited. Capturing, breeding for wildlife for commercial purposes is allowed in China. They would increase controls on seafood markets and ban the sale of live poultry and wildlife. They say there was no signs of live poultry or live wildlife for sale at a wet market. They said but you could ask for live chickens and other things at the same time.
Coronavirus that is spreading in the
Hold
country
on. All these videos playing. I hate you. So
I also have that medical meeting up, Scarlet, when you're ready.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Tell us what the glass. Continue. So they say stay away from wildlife and game and blah blah blah. But let's remember that the SARS outbreak saw a decline in consumption of exotic animals. Okay, that 70% of 24,000 people surveyed in 16 mainland cities had not eaten wild animals, up from 51% in a similar survey in 1999. While the number fell, it showed 30% of those surveyed were still eating the wildlife. So that's interesting. Will it bring me back to the article I was on? Okay, continue.
So what I'm going to do is are you still screen sharing, Scarlet?
Yep.
Never mind, because I'm going to do something real quick.
Okay.
Oops. So basically what this ground breaking pneumonia is.
Glass mnemonic changes.
This ground glass, why did my computer just zoomed all the way in? I don't know. My computer's playing games on me.
Fun.
I don't need games, computer. I need facts.
Games, not facts.
I want all. So in radiology, ground glass opacity, which is the GGO, is a non-specific finding on computed tomography, which is a CAT scan, that indicates a partial filling of air spaces in the lungs by exudate or transudate, as well as interstitial thickening or a partial collapse of lung alveoli. So now what this does is it causes the lung, part of your lung to collapse.
That's interesting. Continue.
So the ground glass opacity is defined as an increased attention of the lung parchemia without obstruction of the pulmonary vascular markings on the CT images. GGOs often will be present in the company of other interstitial or alveolar or findings on a CT scan. So basically, what it is it's a pulmonary issue. It's a breathing issue.
Right.
Like looking at all the images.
Okay, so ground glass opacity is the radiological finding in computed tomography CT consisting of a hazy opacity that does not obscure the underlying bronchial structures or pulmonary vessels. So basically, you can see that you can't breathe. It shows an area of the lungs and lesions. They say ground glass opacity was most frequently associated with acute atypical pneumonia. So
right.
It's a way of seeing it. It shows a partial filling of air spaces in the lungs, as well as interstitial thickening or partial collapse of lung alveoli.
See, I can never pronounce that dang word.
Yeah, I had asthma for many years, so alveoli was in my lexicon.
You know, so like this right here, you know, is so screwed.
Yeah. Because if that's true, then, because basically they also call it pulmonary viral pneumonia, basically they can see that you are having an issue, okay, breathing. So if you see ground glass opacity or ground glass mnemonic changes, the issue with that, without symptoms, we have a huge issue now. Huge issue, beyond issue, okay? It's very, very concerning. People should be a little bit apprehensive right now because, yeah, let's see. And so this guy's talking about, let's pretend that the 3.8 estimate is too high. There's unpublished estimates at 2.5. Let's say that even this virus is RO, which it's like immuno, whatever the other guy said about it, is 2.5. That's still 2 times higher than the seasonal flu is 1.28. Higher than the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic of 1.80 that killed millions. So 2.8 is still super bad, folks.
Right.
So let's think about that. It has more chance of spreading and spreading further, okay, than what we're thinking. Now, Wang Dong, a doctor at Hubei Xinhua Hospital who had been the front line of the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan City, died from the virus at age 62. This is the guy who warned of transmission through ocular exposure.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to read this article right here. All right. Now look at all these trackers. How do I do that? Look at that, you guys. Ridiculous. So many trackers. Wuhan, the center of the coronavirus outbreak, a doctor has died. China Global Television Network has reported on a tweet on Saturday, January 25th. Liang Wudong, a doctor at Hubei Xinhua Hospital who has been at the front line of the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan City, died from the virus age 62. On Saturday, authorities in China announced the number of cases had surged to nearly 1,300, the majority which were in Hubei, which we looked at the map together. Health officials in the province also revealed that 15 new deaths took place in Wuhan, bringing the total number of fatalities to 41 since the outbreak began. The disease has spread to 30 provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities. Wuhan and 13 other cities in Hubei have been locked down with an unprecedented quarantine effort aimed at containing the deadly respiratory contagion that has spread to other several countries. Now we're going to go look at more coverage on the Wuhan virus and all that. Singapore must come together to respond. Vast Wuhan virus quarantine. Its cases emerge in Europe and South Asia. Singapore can contain Wuhan virus if everybody works together. Look how they're talking about this.
Right. See?
Look how they're talking about this. So then, let's see if we have that. AB 99 still up. I don't know if we do. Probably not, just because I want it up. We're going to go and clear this out. And we're going to go to AB 99 because I feel like AB 99 could function in many other. See, look, that's what it looked like earlier with the 941 and all that. That's what it showed earlier.
Hold on, I'm blowing my screen up.
Let's see. Well, now it's already. But it might be a little slower. Okay, so AB 99. Then an act to amend the public health law in relation to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable disease who are potentially dangerous to the public health. Now, when we read this article before, I posed it under what if vaccines, right? But now we need to think, what if coronavirus? Okay, so Section 1 of the bill adds a clause to the public health law relating to the removal of detention of cases, contacts, and carriers who are or may be a danger to public health or other orders. Subdivision 1 defines the circumstances that the provisions of this section shall be utilized in the event that the governor declares a state of health emergency due to an epidemic of any communicable disease. Subdivision 2 authorizes under clear and convincing evidence that the governor and his delegate may order the removal and or detention of such person or of a group of such persons by issuing a single order. The evidence should conclude that the health of others may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier. So I found it interesting that they said we need to have close contact because they call people a contact or carrier of one of suspect of a communicable disease, and that after consultation with the commissioner may pose an imminent and significant threat to the public health resulting in severe morbidity or high mortality. Such persons or group of people shall be detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility designated by the governor or his or her delegate.
See, red flags. Oh.
Yes. Subdivision requires that any person or group be removed or detained by order of the governor or his or her delegate shall be detained for as long as the department may direct. Paragraph of Subdivision 4 requires the release of an afflicted person pursuant to Subdivision 2 after the department determines that such person is no longer contagious. Paragraph B requires the release of a suspected case or carrier after the department determines with the exercise of due diligence that such person is not infected with or has not been exposed to such disease and no longer is or will become contagious. Paragraph C requires the release of a detained person after the department determines that the person is not infected with disease or that such person is no longer a potential danger to the health of others. Paragraph D requires the release of a contact of a suspected case after the department determines that the suspected case was not infected with such a disease or was not contagious at the time the contact was exposed to such individual, or after the department determines that the contact no longer presents a potential danger to the health of others. Subdivision 5 requires that a detained person must have his or her medical condition and needs assessed and addressed on a regular basis, and that the individual may be detained in a manner consistent to proper isolation and infection control principles in order to minimize the likelihood of transmission of infection. Subdivision 6 provides that when a group or who are detained for a period not exceeding 3 business days, he or she or they, upon request, shall be afforded an opportunity to be heard. If said person is detained beyond 3 business days, they shall be provided with an additional commissioner's order pursuant to subdivisions 2 and 8 of this section. Subdivision 7 requires that a person or group are detained for a period exceeding 3 business days and requests release. The governor or his or her delegate shall make an application for court order authorizing such detention. So look, even if you ask to be let go, they're not going to let you go. They're just going to make a detention court order allowing it. The application shall include a request for expedited hearing. Detention shall not continue for more than 5 business days in the absence of a court order authorizing such detention. In no event will a person be detained for more than 60 days without a court order. The governor, his or her delegate, shall seek further court review of such detention within 90 days following the initial court order authorizing detention, and thereafter within 90 days of each subsequent court review. So you could be there forever.
Could be. See, and that's what raises the red flags. You know, I don't want to go setting off alarms yet, but it sounds like we need to fucking set off.
Yeah, because like if they start, and New York is trying to put this into law, if they start and try to copy this public health policy, which they copy each other's public health policy all the time, they're going to do this all across the United States, and or try to create this as a federal law, because as we kept going down, we read that basically, even in one of the articles I read earlier, that the CDC and the federal government has more jurisdiction over individual states if they choose not to comply.
See?
So then they could come in and take over the state because they're not willing to follow what they're saying.
Exactly.
So basically, like I said, they say in the rest of this, they say that they have to, in order for the removal or detention of a person or group issuant to pursuant of the further detention thereof, the governor or his or her delegee shall prove that the particularized circumstances constituting the necessity for such detention by a clear and convincing evidence. So they're basically saying there ain't no rules. We don't have to follow the Constitution. We don't have to follow the rules on the books. All we have to do is supposedly prove that you need to be detained because you are a public health threat, and we can detain you indefinitely.
See, that's stupid.
Yeah. They say that there's a notice that advising the person or group being detained that they have a right to be represented by legal counsel, and that upon request of such person or group will be facilitated to the extent under the circumstances. See, they don't say under the law, you guys. They say will be facilitated to the extent under the circumstances. Does not say as required by law under like your Miranda rights. Doesn't say any of that because this is illegal detention. A notice may also be provided advising that the person or group being detained that they may supply the addresses and or telephone numbers of friends and relatives to receive notification of the person's detention. See, they're not going to let you out. They're not going to let you out. They say that they can basically now keep you in forever. They say that if you're in a medical facility or other appropriate facilities, shall not conduct his or herself in a disorderly manner and shall not leave or attempt to leave such facility until he is or she is discharged. Or what? See, I don't like that they put that in there. And it says subdivision 12 authorizes the governor to reserve the right to issue, seek enforcement of any order of any other orders that he or she determines are necessary. You guys, listen to that. So basically, they're like a dictator and could take over. They don't have to follow the law. In order to prevent transmission of the contagious disease, testing or medical examination of persons to complete an appropriate prescribed course of treatment, preventative medicine, or vaccination. If said person has been contaminated with dangerous amounts of radioactive materials or toxic chemicals, such that the individual may present a danger to others, will be subject to decontamination procedures deemed necessary by the department. Not by law, not by protocols. It doesn't say by each individual disease and this or that, or we will go by a manual. It doesn't say any of that. Subdivision 13 allows that the provisions of this section shall not be construed to permit or require forcible administration of any medication without a prior court order, which means they can get a court order to vaccinate you forcibly if you want it or not. If you want it or not. Because, see, here's where it talks about Section 842 of the U.S. Code, where they can basically talk about it. And it says a communicable disease is defined as any disease that can be transmitted from one person to another. It's important for both persons suspected of being afflicted with a communicable disease as well as those around them to be properly protected. Currently, the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services has statutory responsibility for preventing the introduction, transmission, and spread of communicable diseases in the United States. Under its delegated authority, the Division of Global Migration and Quarantine works to fulfill this responsibility through a variety of activities, including the quarantine stations, as well as standards for medical examinations. The legal foundation for these activities is found in Titles 8 and 42 of the U.S. Code and relative supporting regulations. The process of removing persons who may have or are expected to be afflicted with communicable disease is necessary to public health. The swift actions taken by health officials in lieu of the Ebola virus outbreak in the United States are a demonstration of how swift and proper action can be of great benefit to public health. The removal and detainment of individuals who may be a risk to public health as a result of a communicable disease is necessary so that the danger of the spread of the disease is not a threat to the public. Isolation may be used for ill people to protect the public by preventing exposure to the infected people. Quarantine may be used to restrict the movement of well people who may be exposed to a communicable disease until it can be determined if they are ill. For example, people who have a communicable disease but do not know it, or may have the disease because of close contact with ill people but do not show symptoms. State and local governments are primarily responsible for maintaining public health and controlling the spread of diseases within state borders. Among other public state health emergency preparedness powers, every state, the District of Columbia, and most territories have laws authorizing quarantine and isolation, usually through the state's health authority. The federal government has authority as well through the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention to monitor and respond to the spread of communicable diseases across national or state borders, or if the state government is unwilling or unable to effectively respond. You think they ain't going to put that across the country? You guys are highly mistaken if you don't think that. I'm going to let you know that right now. Everyone needs to be concerned about this. Everyone. That is real. Do you have any thoughts about that, Dwayne? Dwayne, did you fall asleep? Goodbye. Did you fall asleep? Yeah, we might have lost him because apparently we have lost him. Okay, so we're gonna see if he comes back. He might not, but you know, sometimes it's hard at night, you guys. Or sometimes, you know, you're just focused on something else. Hopefully I just didn't pull the gun on that. Sometimes audio problems happen where you lose audio. So, you know, with that being said, this isn't good, you guys. I'm not feeling very good about what's happening right now. Nor really should anybody else. Not saying we should panic about this, because I really need people to understand that I do not think that panic is necessary. What I do think is necessary, though, is a high sense of alert. For the simple fact that we have a really concerning situation, and apparently it is spreading a lot faster than doctors and everybody else out there thought. Doctors are dying from it. Anybody who flew through O'Hare after the 13th could be infected. People need to be serious, you know, and here's the deal. Seattle Times said Washington State's health experts aren't panicking yet about the coronavirus because they're not contagious until a person starts showing symptoms. How many articles have we read here for you guys that says the opposite? Okay, so now they're saying that you don't need to show symptoms to have the coronavirus. They've known patients from, we read, December 29th, who know that this transmits a different way. So I think that that's why we need to pay attention to this. This isn't just every other coronavirus. This isn't just every other, you know, disease outbreak. You know, yes, there was a big deal with SARS back then. I don't think that we should go in complete panic mode, but we need to get in preparation mode. We need to have water. We need to have antibacterials, antivirals. We need to be boosting our immune systems. We need to be getting rest. We need to limit exposure to groups and exposure to people that we're not quite sure who they are. It's not good. All right, so we're going to read this thread written by Dr. Eric Feigelding on Threader.com. Holy Mother of God, the new coronavirus is a 3.8. How bad is that reproductive RO value? It's thermonuclear pandemic level bad. I've actually never seen a virality coefficient outside of Twitter in my entire career. I'm not exaggerating. Okay, so let's see. Here is what happens if the epidemic grows to the largest point. So figure 3. Okay, so we're going to start sharing the screen so you guys can actually see that instead of me just talking about it. Let's share my screen. Okay, so epidemic predictions for A, Wuhan, B, selected Chinese cities, and C, selected countries. Uncertainty and estimated model parameters is reflected by 500 repeated simulations with parameter values drawn randomly from the distribution of fit estimates. So it looks like it's an exponential increase. Okay. So figure 4 is imposing of travel restrictions from or to Wuhan on January 23rd onwards. Here we compare the increased predicted number of infections across cities across mainland China. So, epidemic size, 100%. If we have a 50% reduction in travel, it would be about 85% of the size of the epidemic it is now. Lower as you reduct to almost 99% of travel, which is basically reducing travel to 0. Okay. And like when Dwayne was on earlier, if no one can move around, what does that actually mean? Oh, you're back now. I see you're back. Let's unmute you. There we go. Glad to see you back. Oh no, he's just sleeping. So we'll get him out of the way. We'll just keep him muted. No big deal. I thought actually it had dropped, but here's the deal. So we estimate that the basic reproduction number of the infection, RO, to be 3.8, 95% confidence interval, 3.6 to 4.0, indicating that 72 to 75% of transmissions must be prevented by control measures for infections to stop increasing. Okay. So let's break down what that means. So 75% of transmissions, which means people catching Wuhan coronavirus, must be prevented by control measures, which means control of movement or control of the catching of the disease, right? So we estimate that only 5.1, okay, 95% confidence interval of 4.8 to 5.5 of infections in Wuhan are identified, okay? So only 5.1% of infections are identified. And by January 21st, a total of 11,341 people with a prediction interval have been infected in Wuhan since the start of the year, should the epidemic could continue unabated in Wuhan, okay? And I'm going to actually copy this because I really want to have this thread for later, so I can share that on the Freedom Revolution Network Facebook page and other places. Okay, so then, let's see, where was I? Over here. We predict that the epidemic in Wuhan will be substantially larger by the 4th of February, 191,529 infections. God, I couldn't say that number. Prediction interval, 132,700,000. Oh, is that billion? Yeah. Prediction interval 132,000 to 273,649. Infections will be established in other Chinese cities and importation to other countries will be more frequent. Our model suggests that. Now, we've already had like 12 countries. And like we read earlier, it's the fact of that people are actually traveling in these 40 days, which I believe then honestly, they probably have been doing these celebrations for quite a bit. Hopefully this isn't the beginning of the next 40 days. Hopefully this is the end. Travel restrictions to and from Wuhan City are unlikely to be effective in halting transmission across China, with a 99% effective reduction in travel. The size of the epidemic by Wuhan may only be reduced by 29.4% on the 4th of February. Our findings are critically dependent on the assumptions underpinning our model and the timing and reporting of confirmed cases, and there is considerable uncertainty associated with the outbreak at this early stage. With these caveats in mind, our work suggests that a basic reproductive number for this 2019 novel coronavirus outbreak is higher compared to the other emergent coronaviruses, suggesting that containment or control of this pathogen may be substantially more difficult. The summary. What does this mean for the world? We are now faced with the most virulent virus epidemic the world has ever seen. An RO of 3.8 means that it exceeds SARS' modest 0.9 viral attack rate by 7.75% times. Almost eightfold. A virus that spreads 8 times faster than SARS. It cannot be stopped by containment alone. A 99% quarantine lockdown containment of Wuhan will not even reduce the epidemic spread by 1/3 even in the next 2 weeks. Thus, I really hate to be the epidemiologist who has to admit this, but we are potentially faced with possibly an unchecked pandemic that the world has not seen since the 1918 Spanish influenza. Let's hope it doesn't reach that level, but now we live in the modern world with faster planes and more travel than 1918. The WHO and CDC needs to declare a public health emergency ASAP. Okay. Now it says reference for the RO attack rate, reproductive coefficient, and the 99% containment models come from this paper. Okay. What is the typical RO attack for the seasonal rate of flu? It's a rounded RO of 1.28. The 2009 flu pandemic, an RO of 1.48. The 1918 Spanish flu, 1.80. This new Wuhan coronavirus reproductive value again, RO 3.8. Okay, this is why we say this isn't just a coronavirus, you guys. You know, I know everybody wants to poo-poo and shit on this, okay? And I've seen a lot of you guys doing it on Facebook. And if any of you listen to this, I hope you look at the video. Okay, and you guys need to decide how you feel about it. Like I said, I'm not going to panic. I'm still not going to panic. Even reading these numbers, I'm still not going to panic. But we could start seeing people dying and dropping like flies. Okay, if this is true, we're going to see something the world has never seen. Okay, and it gets worse. The Lancet now reports that the coronavirus is even contagious when no symptoms, specifically crucial to isolate patients' quarantine contacts as early as possible because asymptomatic infection appears possible. Let's pretend the 3.8 estimate is too high. There's unpublished estimates at 2.5. Even if this virus's RO is 2.5, that's still 2 times higher than the seasonal flu and higher than the 1918 Spanish pandemic of 1.80 that killed millions. So 2.8 is still super bad. Wow. That is phenomenal right there. That's some next level stuff. Okay. Very concerned about what's going on. That's a serious thread. We're going to retweet that to everybody. Retweet. It's very concerning. You know, like they said, they already have coronavirus in India. This is crazy. Let's see what else we've got. Coronavirus death toll rises to near 41. And so I think that the Hal Turner potential connection could be right. If this man is correct and that it has a 3.8, okay, reproductive value, there probably is 1.2 million people affected. like Hal Turner's article right here states, 23 million quarantined, 2.8 million affected. Okay, so I just find that interesting. So here's the Street article that we're going to read. China sees another spike in cases of fast-spreading coronavirus. We're going to X this out. I hate this video. Number of fatalities has risen to 41. 41 people have died, with the number of confirmed cases has risen to 1287, Bloomberg and Reuters reported. Some of the 237 cases were described as severe. Chinese cities with populations totaling nearly 40 million have been placed on virtual lockdown. It's first detected in Wuhan City, Hubei province. The Walt Disney Company Get reports that Friday its Shanghai theme park is being closed to fight the spread of the disease. However, cases of the disease have now been reported in the U.S., Europe, as well as other nations in Asia, raising concerns of wider health and economic impacts. Cases of the disease have been reported in Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, France, and the United States, Reuters reported. On Wall Street Friday, stocks finished down after the Centers for Disease Control confirmed that a second patient in the U.S. had been infected with the coronavirus, designated 29 nCoV. The S&P logged its worst day of the year and its biggest percentage decline since October 7th on fears that a widespread outbreak could slow the global economy. The outbreak comes in mid-China's peak travel ahead of the Lunar New Year celebration. The holiday is observed from January 25th to February 8th of this year. Oh, yeah, so this is probably the end, honestly. If that's the end to kind of celebrate. I don't know. I don't know if it's the peak travel period. Okay, so I don't know. We got to find out the answer to this. So if anybody, listening or watching right now knows the answer to that question, could you get a hold of me either on Twitter at The Clarity Show, get a hold of me on Facebook on Freedom Revolution Network, get a hold of me on Facebook at Scarlet Anonymous. There's quite a few places that you can get a hold of me on. This is awful. Okay, that's all I can say right now is I'm trying to pull this up and I'm having a hard time. Okay, that's what I mean is awful. I just hate having some issues with that. So we need, like I said, we need to find out which way this is, because I think that that's going to help us understand what's going on. The coronavirus is something bigger than what we first thought. And like I said, if this man, Eric Feigl-Ding, is correct, this is a big deal because the reproductive RO value matters. And if it's, number one, spreading at a rate that's like 8 times fold and you don't have to be a symptomatic carrier, watch out, y'all. Because how do you even know you have it if there's no symptomatic carrier? That's my only concern. How do you even know you have it? So we're going to go back to that, see what else we got. I like to look at lots of people's threads when we're doing this, just because it's interesting. You never know what you can see. But yeah, that's why we found this. Australia is the only country without a Center for Disease Control. Interesting. Didn't know that. As I worked in virology and now vaccines, coronavirus is a bit scary one. Sad across to Australia. If you're in Brisbane, be careful. There are technologies such as mRNA that can produce vaccines to an epidemic. Oh, look, they're mRNA. So they're like literally like mutated RNA viruses. Oh, that's gross, you guys. Oh, that's gross. Just a whole lot of note. A whole lot of note. See, and this guy's probably sketchy because he's all into vaccines and all this. I don't F around with that. You guys know that. But fascinating nonetheless. This is why we got to look at people's tweets. It's really easy just to go search what's going on. Yeah, and coronary virus. Why are people calling it coronary virus? Like, whoever did that, I just want to smack whoever did that because they don't want people to see the coronavirus outbreak tweets because they called it coronavirus. 4 people in Australia confirmed to have coronavirus. So we have 4, up 33% in Australia. Here we go, y'all. Here we go. Let's see what they're saying. They're saying no letting China into their country. Hysteria or not, prevention's still the best cure. Don't make your immune system weak. Yeah, this is true. At least like I said, don't panic yet. I'm not panicking. Nobody should be panicking. You know, they are building, like they said, a hospital in Wuhan province. They're trying to build a hospital that can house. And why are these things just turning around in circles? What are they actually even doing? Are they doing any work, or this is just like pomp and circumstance? What's going on? It's a good question, right? So they said that, let's see. Let's go follow this thread. Jareen Imam, my team and I, social news gathering, NBC News, head of social, NBC, CBS News, producer, CNN, 48 hours. Huh. Oh, priors. Okay. My team has been speaking to people in Wuhan who are under lockdown because of the coronavirus. One woman told me she's running out of food and they need medical supplies, adding, the worst thing right now is we don't have any information. Let's see what we've got going on with that. So, let's go look at the article, because maybe she wrote it. And then we're going to take a oh, hold on. I muted you if you're awake now or whatever you're doing. If you were talking, hold on. There we go. Were you saying something, Dwayne? Yes, no, maybe so. No, don't think so. Let's mute that again. But it was interesting because I thought maybe. Let's kick him off, actually. I wasn't going to do that, but we'll do that now. Okay. Now, share my screen again. Coronavirus death toll. Okay, that's where we were at. So they say transportation was shut down Friday in Wuhan and 13 surrounding cities in Hubei province with a combined population of more than 33 million people. The lockdown included Americans like Diana Adama, who has lived in China for 15 years but recently moved to Wuhan. The worst thing right now is we don't have any information, said Adama, who's in her 50s and works in education. There are people volunteering to take doctors and nurses to the hospitals. The city is tightly locked down with no stores open and food in short supply. In my refrigerator, I have some eggs, some cheese, which is very rare here, and oatmeal, but not much food, no vegetables and fruits. I have worked at 2 medical universities, and I don't think doctors are prepared here. Adama has been using Twitter to plead for supplies in the community. We need respirator masks. We need medical supplies. And I want to give the respirators to the local hospitals here. I've lived for 15 years, and this is my home. Wuhan resident Scott Alice, 31, has lived in the city since 2015. The English test preparation teacher said usually busy streets are empty. You can see in the videos I've posted on my Facebook that streets are empty, Alice said. No one's inside KFC. I normally don't even go there because it's packed with people, but now there's just no one. The city is quickly running out of supplies for its 11 million residents. Now, look, here's another issue that's like super compounded now. Because now if these people don't have food, don't have any way to replenish the stores because no one's allowed to travel, what are they going to do? Abigail Cooper, an English teacher in Wuhan, is currently visiting her family in her home state of Arkansas. She said she first heard about people getting sick in December. We all just thought it was a random cold or flu. But then right before I left China, my students started telling me about a very serious pneumonia. While Cooper doesn't personally know anyone who's contracted the coronavirus, she's worried about the city's ability to contain it. Wuhan is definitely a developing city. There are 11 million people in Wuhan. So when there's an epidemic happening like this, there just are not enough resources health-wise. Cooper, who bought a round-trip ticket before leaving China earlier this month, said she's worried about whether she'll be able to return to Wuhan. I'm just nervous because half of my life is in China, she said. I'm hoping that this is kind of a wake-up call to China, but I think it's going to take a while to overcome this. In the United States, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention are monitoring at least 61 potential cases in 22 states. A second case in the U.S. was confirmed Friday. A 60-year-old woman who was hospitalized in Chicago after returning from a trip to Wuhan, China on January 13th. She did not show symptoms during her travels, according to the CDC. The first coronavirus was reported in the U.S. on Tuesday when a man in his 30s felt ill after returning to his home state of Washington on January 15th. He also traveled to Wuhan but did not visit the seafood market where the outbreak was said to have started. He did not have symptoms when he landed in the U.S. but read about the virus. He went to the hospital when symptoms did start to emerge. The patient remained in the hospital Friday out in an abundance of caution, and they're keeping a close watch on the 43 people who came in contact with the Washington patient. The 43 have not been quarantined, but are asked to watch symptoms and take their temperatures daily. Because remember, you guys, if you come in contact, let's say somebody does have it, and you come in contact with somebody at like a store or the airport or just anywhere you went after you left till you went home, like I said, they're going to go through security cameras and figure out who the hell you are, and they're going to be at your house, and they are going to detain you. That's just the end, that's the end of it, you guys. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide in a situation like that. They're coming for you. A second case was confirmed Friday, blah, blah, blah. They just said that again. Nancy Messonnier, the director of the CDC's National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, said earlier in the week that the risk to the American public was low. Severe cases have been limited to older adults or those with existing health problems. Still, officials in the U.S. are taking precautions to stop the virus from spreading, including screening airline passengers who arrive from China. Look at how many people actually wrote on this article. There's like 5 people in this article. It really takes 5 people to write an article. No wonder I can't get any articles out, you guys, because it takes 5 people to write an article. And it's a joke, but I mean, honestly. Let's see. But that's scary. Really think about that. They're running out of food. They're running out of, let's see. We'll share this, even though I'm not going to watch it right now. Let's see. Earthquake. Coronavirus outbreak. Where is that at? Kerjewal. Oh, is this in India? I don't know. Okay. Coronavirus outbreak. 45 dead, 1,300 in hospital. Now in all major continents, 10 minutes ago. Yeah, coronavirus. Like, it's irritating that they did that because, like I said, you can't find anything like you need to. What you need to know about coronavirus: respiratory symptoms, fever, difficulty breathing, cough, which, like I said, now could even be something else. And what you need to know about the coronavirus is that, too, the World Health Organization, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, after handling animals or animal waste. Very interesting. Here's from the Punjabi United Repost, mysterious virus in China. Here is 881 confirmed cases. Latest on coronavirus outbreak. I do like CGTN. They're pretty neat. I do like them. Here's some information that I'm going to retweet about the coronavirus. Let's see. Now, 3 confirmed cases, according to 9 News Sydney. I don't know if I already said that. No plan to stop Chinese tourists from coming into the country. In Malaysia. Let's see. Tamiflu. Why are they talking about Tamiflu? Don't take Tamiflu, y'all. This ain't the flu. You cannot. No. Or somebody. I need to know what this is, because is somebody trying to say like the coronavirus can be like treated through the antiviral Tamiflu? I need to get this article like. I wish I knew what this said. 5 Ribu Waba virus corona. What about antivirus? If that means take some damn Tamiflu, okay, to protect yourself, they lying. Look, it talks about, it looks like distribute. Do not take no Tamiflu, y'all. That can cause hallucinations, and it can cause a lot of unwanted side effects, even death. It's in actually the package insert that death is also a potential issue. 15 students from the Wuhan College went clubbing in Cambridge this week. You guys, oh my gosh. And if everybody in this picture is a super spreader, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 students. We're going to do 15, and each one of them can infect 14 people, okay? So 15 times 14, 210 people, and then times that by 14, 2,940 people, okay? This is not serious. This is kind of serious. Let's just, what's this video about? Is this in China somewhere? Are people buying masks? What are they buying? Masks. Yeah, look at this, you guys. Just masks on masks on masks on masks. Wow, people are even talking about, receiving communion by hand. Wuhan to restrict car traffic in city Sunday. Look, y'all, they're about to stop people from even moving. Chinese nurse claims corpses of coronavirus victims are left lying in a Wuhan hospital, crowded with patients. Let's go look at this. A chilling scene captured by a woman who claims to be a nurse in the epicenter of the outbreak. Let's go look at the Daily Mail. Everybody has their opinions about the Daily Mail, but let's look at it. And take a drink here. My drink. All right. Chinese nurse claims corpses of coronavirus victims are left lying in a Wuhan hospital. Oh. Why are you playing around? Crammed with patients as she warns everyone will end up being infected in desperate plea for help. And self-proclaimed medic filmed 3 corpses unattended in hospital corridor. In a post, she accused authorities of covering up the truth of the epidemic. She claimed doctors refused to issue diagnosis to control the official figures. Oh, dun, 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 dun. Now that's something important, because if they are trying to hide this because they're just afraid of the potential backlash, I actually could see it. Now, do I think they should be truthful? Absolutely. Oh, here's the video. Let's see. I tell people that I'm on. Let's see. Because we're going to look at this video this Twitter video. Let's figure out Lana Mo on Twitter. We're going to look at that in a second here because there was an explosion in Wuhan, China, and somebody took down the video earlier, and I was going to show you guys the video, but now we have confirmation that we found the video again. So did this happen in the area of the massive viral outbreak facility, the actual BSL level 4 facility? Is that what we're seeing here? Did that explode, and are they trying to hide evidence? Okay. So now, here we go. Corpses of coronavirus victims are being left unattended in a corridor of a hospital flooded with patients in Wuhan, China. As the city is ravaged by the deadly infection, it has been revealed. The chilling scene captured by a woman who claims to be a nurse was posted on the country's social media network today, which is Weibo, but quickly censored. Dozens of videos posted online appear to show people lying in the streets collapsing where they stood after the streets of Wuhan. Mail Online has been unable to verify the videos, which have been widely circulated. Okay, so what they want us to believe is that, and not that we shouldn't, but this is what they want us to believe, that, you know, these people here are dead, okay? That's what they want us to think, that these people are dead. So here's the whole video now that you guys can see. There's just dead people supposedly on the ground, covered up, you know, some potential living people, I guess. Somebody's on a lawn chair, okay? Like, so I don't know. Are these people dead? Are they just keeping dead people? Look, they got people with IV poles in the middle of, just sitting down. Like, they don't even have rooms for these people. Like, this is bad. If this is the pictures of the coronavirus right now, it's concerning. In a post, the self-proclaimed medical worker described how patients were being sent in nonstop without any quarantine measures, warning that everyone will end up being infected and dying. The now removed video was shared onto Weibo, the Chinese equivalent to Twitter, by a user known as Magic Girl Zhaoji. It was believed to be filmed at the Wuhan Red Cross Hospital, one of the facilities appointed by the government to receive suspected and diagnosed coronavirus patients. According to a version reposted on Twitter, dead bodies covered the streets in white sheets as people were being seen left to lie in a hospital corridor. Okay. Crammed with medical workers and patients. A woman believed to be the blogger can be heard saying from behind the camera, 3 corpses. They've been lying here all morning. Some died in the wee hours. No one has come to deal with them yet. Doctors, nurses, and patients all work in such an environment. This is what's going on in a designated hospital. Not one single person is here to manage. She went on about the fact that even the executives of the hospital could not resolve the issue. In addition to the clip, the blogger wrote a desperate post begging the public to save the people of Wuhan. In the post, the self-proclaimed nurse accused hospitals of covering up the truth in the epidemic, claiming that doctors were refusing to issue formal diagnosis of coronavirus patients in order to keep the number of confirmed cases at a lower level. She said that her husband had a fever for 8 days and been found to have an infection in the lungs, but no hospitals were willing to receive him. Furthermore, all of the hospitals refused to provide her husband with appropriated virus scans or give him an official diagnosis, she claimed. Virus scans or give an official diagnosis. I said that already. The post then claimed that the local hospitals were seriously overrun and the medics were forced to work day and night. The Mail Online has reached out to the blogger for further comments. Now, if this is a hospital in Wuhan, I mean, look at that, you guys. Look at that. I mean, look at that. I mean, you can't even move. There's so many people. If that's the case, look at that. Pharmacy, register, pay. Oh, yeah, look at that. Unverified footage posted by a blogger on Weibo appears to show the corridor and lobby of a hospital crammed with hundreds of mask-donning patients waiting to see the doctor. At least 9 cities, now we know 13, have been blocked. Look at that. I mean, that's just insane. The blogger's allegations came after footage purported to show hundreds of people filling a Wuhan hospital to the brim amid the health crisis. The deadly coronavirus ravaging Asia is far more contagious than previously thought, and someone who is infected can spread it with just a simple cough or sneeze. It has so far killed 26 people, infected more than 830 in at least 10 countries and regions within 3 weeks. But experts predict the true number of people with the disease could be over 10,000, as it warned it may kill as many as 2 in 100 cases. Part of the Great Wall of China and Disneyland in Shanghai have been closed to stop people spreading the deadly Wuhan coronavirus. At least 10 cities in China, home to around 33 million people, have gone into some form of lockdown in the past couple days, with public transport halted and roads closed down. A picture released by the Central Hospital of Wuhan shows a medic donning full-bodied hazardous material-looking suit looking after one patient who has been infected by a new deadly virus. Okay, doctors at the Central Hospital of Wuhan clenched their fists to show their determination of a fight to the virus. A salute to the medical workers who fight on the front line. Never before seen pictures were taken inside the intensive care units of the Department of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine of the hospital in Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak. A leading Chinese virologist who helped tackle the SARS epidemic is warned that the situation in Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, is uncontrollable. Another expert in the country feared that the worst was yet to come. Okay, sorry. And claiming that the peak of the outbreak would be next month. So you guys, we aren't even to the peak yet. We aren't even to the peak. Wuhan, the capital of Hubei province with a population of 11 million, has been quarantined since yesterday. The local government said today that the city was witnessing a surge in the number of its fever patients and that hospitals were running out of beds. Authorities have reportedly ordered a state-run construction company to build a dedicated hospital in 6 days to treat patients diagnosed with coronavirus. The emergency medical facility would be modeled on a center built in Beijing in 2003 during the epidemic of SARS. So, coronaviruses are usually mostly mild respiratory infections, but they can also be deadly. Okay, 26 people have died after testing positive. Now we know 45 have died. Let's see. Most may assume that they have a common cold and not seek medical attention, experts fear. The genetic sequencing was released by scientists in China to the rest of the world and to other countries to quickly diagnose potential new cases. And we went over a lot of this already tonight for those who are just tuning in to Clarity After Dark here on the Freedom Revolution Network. We also were on as emergency management associates before this, and I highly recommend you go and check that both of those episodes out on the Freedom Revolution Network, because there's lots and lots of information that we've went over tonight. We just talked about how a virologist on Twitter was just talking about how the rate of spread is a lot higher than what people think. Okay. And that was referenced by a tweet thread from a virologist who claims that the reproductive coefficient is like 3.8 and regular flu is like 1.2, and even the flu was 1.8, like the Spanish flu outbreak of 1918 only had a quotient of 1.8, and this has 3.8. Even if it's at 2.5, let's say even half of that, you're still talking, 7 or 8 time increase in transmission rates. This is going to be something where we're going to see from one day to the next, numbers just explode. All right, so we're going to look up Lana Mo on Twitter. Let's go find her. Let's actually pull up the video to see what the username on Twitter is. So I'm having a little bit of trouble finding it. Oh, they took it down again. They're totally trying to take this down. Whoa. So they said that there's pictures of Lana Mo. It says Wuhan not safe for work, bus driver was killed, and you see blood, coming out of this person. Wow. Let's see if they'll actually say that they took it down. Okay, here we go. There we go. Bus driver vomits blood after becoming unconscious behind the wheel. Wuhan resident was positively confirmed to have the Wuhan coronavirus. Look at this, you guys. No, look at this. The date says 2015. The date says 2015. But why? Holy crap. Like, that's insane, you guys. I've never seen anything like that. That's insane. But that says 2015. So I don't know how I feel about this video. Like I said, just considering it says 2015 on the time stamp. So I don't know how I feel about that. We're going to keep going. Yeah, exactly. Look at the date. It's 15. So, yeah, you know, people got to pay attention to what they share, too. This is why you got to look at details, you know, and see what people are talking about. Now, supposedly, this explosion happened in China. I don't know what to feel about this now with this person, because you see what I mean? Like, is this true? Like I said, you can decide how you feel about it. So we'll see. I just don't know how I feel about it. Was this today? Was this before today? Was this last week? Was this 2 months ago? What was it? Oh, look at that. That's crazy. Look at that. Or was that like a fireworks factory? But look, this person hit the deck. So there's a reason why they felt like they hit the deck. But like I said, we don't know if this, and this person only has 12 tweets. Yeah, I don't trust it. Yeah. People are running with this video on Facebook and other places. So if any of you followed the link that I posted, please know that this is not, this ain't that, y'all. Now let's look up hashtag Wuhan, because I noticed that there are people who have hashtag Wuhan on there. So let's go to Wuhan. Hashtag Wuhan. Should we look up Wuhan coronavirus or just Wuhan? China exempts service fee on Wuhan travel refunds. Let's see, meltdown due. Video of frontline medics of Wuhan coronavirus meltdown due to the devastation situation. Rough translation. What are you doing? I want to go home. I worked 4 shifts a day. Take those patients away. That's too bad. Should we listen to it? Let's listen to it. That's sad, y'all. You could just tell. I don't even care what that's about. Like, just you can hear it in the voice. Like I said, this video in particular has been shared a lot, and I'm questionable about it because you can see leaves on the trees, and right now it is early spring. And so it's called the Spring Festival. Chinese New Year is. So I don't know if that is recent. Okay. Let's see. We're going to follow this. Let's go see what this guy's talking about. Maybe he'll have some cool tweets. He had an underlying cardiac arrhythmia. I don't care what the guy had. Complications, my butt. I don't care what it is. RNA-emia? What the hell is RNA-emia? So the paper one outlines the first 41 cases. The severity of illness is concerning. Oh, let's go read it. Okay, so we're going to go show this thread from the Lancet. So the first 41 cases. So literally, you guys, that's everybody up until 45 that we know about. Okay. So that, you know, and maybe the first 45 deaths, or just, I don't know, clinical features of patients infected with 2019 novel coronavirus in Wuhan, China. So here we go. So all patients with suspected 2019 nCoV were admitted to a designated hospital in Wuhan. We prospectively collected and analyzed data on patients with laboratory-confirmed 2019 nCoV infection by real-time RT-PCR and next-generation sequencing. Data was obtained by standardized data collection forms shared by the International Severe Acute Respiratory and Emerging Infection Consortium from electronic medical records. Researchers also directly communicated with patients or their families to ascertain epidemiological symptom and data. Outcomes were compared between patients who had admitted to the intensive care unit, ICU, and those who had not. The findings, okay? So by January 2nd, 2020, 41 admitted hospital patients. Now listen, you guys. Now, this is the second time we've heard that this has been going on for a while. It only has been brought to our attention now, which makes me think, again, is the Hal Turner article about many more people are infected true just because we keep going back to weeks ago, okay? And they have papers about it already and everything, okay? So I'm going to stop trying to make that noise with my leg because I feel like so okay. I'm sorry. I just got distracted by looking at a link that somebody was sending me. So I appreciate that. And you guys can also go to Clarity After Dark chat on the freedomrevolutionnetwork.com and place your questions there. Place your information there. So that way you can put it out. All right. So let's continue. Yeah, and I thought I would be, done already, but I guess, you know what? There's just a lot more information than I thought would be out about it. And so let's just keep continuing. I'm actually going to take a dose of kratom right now because I'm getting it's kind of painful sitting in this chair. I'm going to have to figure out what I can do to make myself more comfortable during shows. But I have been marathon broadcasting since 9:30 Central Standard Time. So I've been on Emergency Management Associates for 2 hours, and then I switched up and started Clarity After Dark. So, but I guarantee by anybody who's been sitting here could have probably already read this on their screen by now. But if for some reason you are listening to Clarity After Dark on the speaker, here you go. By January 2nd, 2020, 41 admitted hospital patients had been identified as having laboratory-confirmed 2019 nCoV infection. Most of the infected patients were men, 30, 73% with 41. Less than half had underlying diseases, only 13%, including diabetes, 8 people, hypertension, 6 people, cardiovascular disease, 6, which is all 15, and 20%. Median age was 49.0 years, and 27 of the 41 patients has been exposed at Huanan Seafood Market. One family cluster was found, which we read about that earlier, the actual family cluster that was found. So when this video actually posts to the freedomrevolutionnetwork.com YouTube, you will be able to go back and actually find out who those people were. Okay. I apologize. Okay, so 40% of 40 of 41 patients, common symptoms of onset of illness were fever, with 40 out of 41 patients, cough, 31, and myalgia or fatigue, 18. Less common symptoms were sputum production, 11 out of 39, headache, 3 out of 38, hemoptysis, and diarrhea, 1 person. Dysphonia developed in 22 of 40 patients. Median time from illness to onset of dysphonia, 8.0 days. 26 out of 41 patients had lymphopenia. All 41 patients had pneumonia with abnormal findings on chest CT. Complications included acute respiratory distress syndrome, anemia, acute cardiac injury, 5, secondary infection, 4, and patients were admitted to an ICU, and 15% died. Compared with non-ICU patients had higher plasma levels of IL-2, IL-7, IL-10, GSF, IP-10, MCP-1, MIP-1A, and TNFA. The interpretation is that the 29 nCoV infection caused clusters of severe respiratory illness similar to severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, which is SARS, and is associated with ICU admission and high mortality. Major gaps in our knowledge of the origin, epidemiology, and duration of human transmission and clinical spectrum of disease need fulfillment by future studies. Coronaviruses are enveloped as non-segmented positive sense RNA viruses belonging to the family Coronaviridae and the order of Nidovirales, and broadly distributed in humans and other mammals. Although most coronavirus infections, okay. Oh, so this is where they explain it. All right, here we go. I've been looking for this, because this is what I've been trying to explain. I've been seeing a lot of people post about coronavirus, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a cold. They're just trying to freak you out. You just don't need to listen." Okay, no. Okay, you need to listen to this, because when you decide to be a know-it-all, okay, is when you lose out. And so this is really important. Really important. Okay. So they say, although most human coronavirus infections are mild, the epidemics of the 2 beta coronaviruses, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, SARS-CoV, and Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus, MERS-CoV, have caused more than 10,000 cumulative cases in the past 2 decades, with mortality rates of 10% for SARS-CoV and 37% for MERS-CoV. Coronaviruses already identified might only be the tip of the iceberg, with potentially more novel and severe zoonotic events to be revealed. I don't like how they say that. In December 2019, a series of pneumonia cases of unknown cause emerged in Wuhan, Hubei, China, with clinical presentations greatly resembling viral pneumonia. Deep sequencing analysis from lower respiratory tract samples indicated a novel coronavirus, which was named 2019 novel coronavirus. You know, I had somebody arguing with me about what it was actually named. They're like, it doesn't have a name. Yes, it does. 2019 novel coronavirus, which just means new coronavirus. Thus far, more than 800 confirmed cases, including in healthcare workers, have been identified in Wuhan, and several exported cases have been confirmed in other provinces in China, Thailand, Japan, South Korea, USA, Malaysia, Australia, Nepal. The list goes on at this point, you guys. So evidence before the study, human coronaviruses, including HCOV-22-9E, OC43, NL63, and HKU1, have caused mild respiratory diseases. Fatal coronavirus infections that have emerged in the past 2 decades. So see, normal human coronaviruses, don't worry about. Fatal coronaviruses, we should worry about. Okay. So it would be SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV. We searched the PubMed and China National Knowledge Infrastructure database for articles published up until January 11, 2020, using the keywords novel coronavirus, 2019 coronavirus, or 29 nCoV. Okay. And no published work about the human infection caused by the 2019 novel coronavirus could be identified. So no one knew. We added value of this study. We report the epidemiological, clinical, laboratory, and radiological characteristics, treatment, and clinical outcomes of 41 laboratory confirmed cases infected with 29 nCoV. 66% of 41 patients had a history of direct exposure at the Hunan seafood market. Now, I'd like to see what the number is now that we have so many more people, because now we know it can even be passed without knowing about the symptoms. And now you don't even need a fever to pass it. So they said a third of patients, 13%, 32%, that's about a third, had underlying disease. All patients had pneumonia. A third of patients were admitted to intensive care units and 6 died. High concentration of cytokines were recorded in the plasma of critically ill patients infected with 2019 nCoV, which is interesting that the cytokines are there, because I wonder if that has to do with some of the kidney issues that people have been talking about. Okay. So they talk about the patients. The cause was unknown at the onset of these emerging infections. The diagnosis of pneumonia of unknown cause in Wuhan was based on clinical characteristics and ruling out the common and bacterial and viral pathogens that cause pneumonia. Suspected patients were isolated using airborne precautions in the designated hospital, and fit-tested N95 masks and airborne precautions for aerosol generating procedures were taken. This study was approved by the National Commission of China and Ethics Commission of Yintan Hospital. Okay, and this was 1/1/2020. Written informed consent was waived by the Ethics Commission, y'all. Listen. Written informed consent was waived by the Ethics Commission of Designated Hospital for Emerging Infectious Diseases. Okay. Procedures. So a novel coronavirus was isolated from lower respiratory tract specimen, and a diagnostic test for this virus was developed soon after that. Of 59 suspected cases, 41 patients were confirmed to have the 2019 nCoV. The presence of 2019 nCoV in respiratory specimens was detected by the next generation sequencing or real-time RT-PCR methods. The primers and probe target to envelope gene of CoV were used, and the sequences read as follows. Forward primer, 5 TCA GAAT GCC AAT CT CCCC AACC3. Reverse primer, 5 AAA GGT CCA CCCG ATA CA TTGA3, and the probe 5 CY5 CTAG TTACA CTAG CCA TCC TTA CTGC 3 BHQ1. Conditions for the amplifications were 50 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes, 95 Celsius for 3 minutes, followed by 45 cycles of 95 C for 15 seconds and 60 C for 30 seconds. Initial investigations concluded a complete blood count, coagulation profile, serum biochemical test, including renal and liver function, creatine kinase, lactate dehydrogenase, and electrolytes. Respiratory specimens, including nasal and pharyngeal swabs, bronchial alveolar lavage fluid, sputum, where bronchial aspirates were tested for common viruses, including influenza, avian influenza, RSV, adenovirus, parainfluenza virus, SARS-CoV, and MERS-CoV using the real-time RT-PCR assays provided by the China Food and Drug Administration. Routine bacterial and fungal examinations were also performed. Okay, given the emergence of the nCoV cases during influenza season, antibiotics, oral and intravenous, and oseltamivir, orally 75 milligrams twice daily, were empirically administered. Does the Tamiflu make it spread, y'all? I don't know. I'm just bringing it up. Corticosteroid therapy, methylprednisolone, 40 to 120 milligrams per day, was given as a combined regimen if severe community-acquired pneumonia was diagnosed by physicians at the designated hospital. Oxygen support and invasive mechanical ventilation was administered to the patients according to the severity of hypoxemia. Repeated tests for the 2019 nCoV were done in patients confirmed to have 2019 nCoV infection to show viral clearance before hospital discharge. We reviewed clinical charts, nursing records, laboratory findings, and chest x-rays for all patients with laboratory confirmed 29 nCoV. that were the admission data were for these patients were December 16, 2019 to January 22nd, 2020. Look, y'all, December 16th. And we know that Bill Gates just did a test of coronavirus epidemic in October. So let's remember that. So the cytokines that the coronavirus or chemokines in the acute phase of illness, they did all these tests, okay, detection of coronavirus in plasma. Okay, so they added a plasma sample from patients in the contacts was added into 240 milliliters of Triziol LS, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Carlsbad, California, in the biosafety level 3 laboratory. Now, they do have a biosafety level 4 laboratory in Wuhan. So let's remember that. And it was extracted by direct cell RNA mini prep kit by Zymo Research in Irvine, California, according to the manufacturer's instructions. Okay. And it was obtained, a 50 UL dilution was obtained for each sample. Okay. Then they used this, since we did not perform tests for detecting infectious virus in blood, we avoided the term viremia and used RNAemia instead. RNAemia is defined as a positive result for real-time, RT-PCR in the plasma sample. See, this is important. So, now here's the table. Here's all patients, right? Okay, so we've got all patients, about 49 years, men the most, women not that many. Current smokers, any comorbidity, 13%. Only 13 out of the 40 patients, so only 32% had any comorbidity. And they keep trying to say that more people had comorbidities, but according to this study that they already had done, that's not true. So I find that fascinating. Days from onset to dysphonia was 8.0 days. Days from first admission to transfer, 5 days. And here's the pressure rates of people in ICU care or no ICU care, and respiratory rates. 24 breaths per minute. So hypoxemia was defined as arterial oxygen tension over inspiratory oxygen fraction of less than 300 millimeters. Acute kidney injury was identified and classified on the basis of the highest certain creatine level or urine output criteria according to Kidney Disease Improving Global Outcomes Classification. Bruh, once I had a creatine kinase of over 250,000, like I should have been dead over that. That's why I find it interesting. Cardiac injury followed the definition in our previous study in H7N9 patients. Cardiac injury was diagnosed if serum levels of cardio biomarkers were above the 99th percentile upper reference limit. Let's see what we've got here. Results, and I think we read the results of how many people had white blood cells, lymphopenia, lymphocyte counts, all of that. We're going to go down, neutrophil count, lymphocyte count, hemoglobin, platelet counts, activated partial thromboplastin time, albumin, bilirubin, potassium, creatine. Okay, so yeah, I had a 250,000, y'all, creatine kinase level. 250,000. Like I should have been dead. Lactate dehydrogenase, hypersensitive troponin, procalcitin. So like if you do catch this, this is what it should look like, by the way. So you can show this to a doctor or somebody. So they say that bilateral ground glass opacities are on chest CT scans, and Dwayne earlier had went over that. Few patients had prominent upper respiratory tract signs, so no sneezing or sore throat. So most people had fever, dry cough, and the CT scan. Okay, so they say that the pathophysiology for an unusually high pathogenicity for the SARS-CoV or MERS-CoV have not completely been understood. Early studies have shown that the increased amounts of pro-inflammatory cytokines in serum were associated with pulmonary inflammation and extensive lung damage in SARS patients. We noted that patients infected with 29-nCoV had high amounts of IL-1B, IFNN, IP10, and MCP1, probably leading to an activated T helper 1 Th1 cell response. Moreover, patients requiring ICU admission had higher concentrations of GCSF, IP10, MCP1, and MIP1A, suggesting that the cytokine storm was associated with disease severity. However, they also increased secretion of T helper 2 cytokines that suppress inflammation, which differs from the SARS-CoV infection. So it's similar, you guys, to SARS and MERS, but not quite. And here's the transverse CT images, okay? So you can see how, you know, it increased after that. All right. So then they show complications, what your complications can be, what your percentage of the people who actually, well, what the percentage of the actual people who it occurred to. You know, 15% of people died, 68% were discharged. But I find it interesting that they're using Tamiflu. Okay, so they say that corticosteroids did not have an effect on mortality, but rather delayed viral clearance. So it suppressed, and steroids suppress the immune system. Therefore, corticosteroids should not be routinely given systemically. Let's see. No antiviral treatment for coronavirus has been proven to be effective. It did use a lopinavir, which is probably similar to oseltamivir, like Tamiflu, and ritonavir. Okay, so an effective treatment has not been developed. They did have a randomized controlled trial. Our study has some limitations. For the most of the 41 patients, diagnosis was confirmed with lower respiratory tract specimens, and no paired nasopharyngeal swabs were obtained to investigate the difference in viral RNA detection rate between upper and lower respiratory tract specimens. So that's interesting. Serological detection was not done to look for 29 nCoV antibody rises in 18 patients with undetectable viral RNA. Undetectable viral RNA. You can't even test for it. Like, you can't even test for it. So they say right here, extensive research on SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV have driven the discovery of many SARS and MERS-like coronaviruses in bats. They reported the whole genome sequence of a SARS-like coronavirus in bats with the ability to use the human ACE2 as a receptor, thus having replication potentials in human cells. 29 nCoV still needs to be studied deeply in case it becomes a global health threat. Reliable, quick pathogen tests and feasible differential diagnosis based on clinical description are crucial for clinicians in their first contact with suspected patients. Because of the pandemic potential of 29 nCoV, careful surveillance is essential to monitor its future host adaptation, viral evolution, infectivity, transmissibility, and pathogenicity. Now, we read about the pathogenicity from this other gentleman, and I think it's important, but I'm glad we read that Lancet study because I find it important so people understand it. It's very concerning, but the fact that they keep reporting it as a killer virus, okay, when we look at the numbers of people who have been infected supposedly, or that we don't even know potentially are infected, because if what the people on the ground are reporting is true, hospitals are avoiding reporting this so they don't have to say anything about it. Trending in United States corona outbreak. Can we actually have a real hashtag on this? Let's see what this guy says. Ronald Dacey. Yeah, I definitely recommend also be very careful with information because they're talking about outbreaks and they're talking about something that at this point, if it does spread as fast as this virologist says, we should be concerned, but we shouldn't be panicking to the level that it affects our decision making, because I feel like an AB 99 from New York, like we talked about earlier, could be implemented as the law of the land everywhere, and now multiple people are going to be detained. Because like they said, with the guy in Washington 43 people are being monitored. So from the time he came home on the plane till he went home, he was in contact with 43 people. That's a bunch of people for probably just going to like 1 or 2 places on your way home. If the replication is correct, like what the gentleman said, we need to be concerned for the fact that it's going to spread faster than any other disease we've ever known. And what's going to be important is that if we have immune support, okay? So that's where I think it's important. That we need to just watch this, okay? That's where I think this is a big deal. Just a serious big deal. All right, so now I think with that, I've kind of covered everything that I can think of with the coronavirus outbreak. Oh, they built it down. Oh, Johns Hopkins is, oh, they're the ones who built it. Huh. Because that's that, the ArcGIS map I've been looking at and I've been showing everybody. Pakistan on high alert. Event 201. It does sound like a bioengineered weapon. I'm not going to lie. You just don't know how to feel about it. Dude, even K-pop people are like, stay safe during the coronavirus outbreak. I think people should grab some masks for sure. Drug makers chase vaccine as coronavirus spreads globally. Now look at this. We'll read this one. Then we'll check on earthquakes and then we'll get out of here. Drug makers chase vaccine as coronavirus spreads globally. Drug makers are hustling to make a vaccine to counter the rapidly spreading respiratory virus that has sickened at least 830 in China and 2 people in the United States. Okay, I don't need this 1,000 bajillion things. I don't want an ad blocker. I don't want any of this, okay? Don't want any of this. I just want to read the article. USA Today, quit BSing. Look at how they had 31 trackers though, you guys. Did you see that? Look at that. Look at all that. Look at all that. Yeah, my ad blocker's on. Okay, go ahead, free. Oh, they're going to make me subscribe if I don't. Okay. Well, you guys suck. I just wanted to read this. So they said the agency has been funding the technology. They're hoping to get into phase 1. Yeah, I can't even read that article. I hate this. You guys, you get to see how we're, use AdSense or something, okay? Everybody uses AdSense, and that's all right. But if I can't even read your article, how's that going to help me? Let's see. Being an alarmist may be a good thing if you're an epidemiologist. Given the scale and speed at which epidemics spread, being safe is better than being sorry. Wuhan virus hit Wuhan has 2 laboratories linked to the Chinese biowarfare program. Here we go. I haven't heard this article. We're going to read this. Okay. So Virology Institute there has China's only secure lab for studying deadly viruses. The deadly animal virus epidemic spread globally. It may have originated at a laboratory linked to China's covert biological weapons program, according to an Israeli biological warfare expert. Boom goes the dynamite. Now, people want to talk about conspiracy theories, but here is an Israeli biological warfare expert stating, okay, because people have been saying, oh, that's such a lie. That can't be happening. Look at this, you guys. So Radio Free Asia this week rebroadcast a local Wuhan television report from 2015 showing China's most advanced virus research laboratory known as the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Radio Free Asia reported. The laboratory is the only declared site in China capable of working with deadly diseases. Danny Shoham, a former Israeli military intelligence officer who has studied Chinese biowarfare, said the institute is linked to Beijing's covert biological weapons program. Certain laboratories in the institute have probably been engaged in terms of research and development in Chinese biological weapons, at least collaterally, yet not as a principal facility of the Chinese BW alignment. Okay, so that's bioweapon alignment, I'm sure. The work on biological weapons conducted as a part of a dual civilian military research and is definitely covert, he said in an email. Mr. Shoham holds a doctorate in medical microbiology from 1970 to 1991. He was a senior analyst with Israeli military intelligence for biological and chemical warfare in the Middle East and worldwide.